Hi there, welcome back. So today I can finally continue with my code. I allow myself finally to continue with my code. I've done all the voiceover from all the footage I had without sound. So now I can finally continue creating stuff. And like I said before, I wanted to start with cleaning up my code a bit and applying the things I learned so far and applying that to my code, make things more simple and more logical, and yeah, get it, clean it up. Then I have a whole list of notes that of things that I noticed while I was working, while I was doing all the voiceover, etc. And yeah, now to see in what order I'm going to do these things. I'm trying to not to be all over the place. Oh yeah, simple little thingy. Well, simple. When I changed my, I changed the clips to dark theme. Yeah, right away I have a question I wanted to change. So I'm asking if ChatGPT can explain what enumerations are usually used for and what some alternatives are. Often referred to as an enum is. This type of class used to define collections of constants. Enumerations, which means specifically listed. Enumerations are lists of named constants that define a new data type. In your code, here are some benefits and use cases of using ENUMS. Type safety, ENUMS have their own namespace, switch statements, singleton design. Alternatives, constants, public static final, class hierarchy. If each constant should have a different behavior. Okay, some examples. Sunday, Monday, days of the month. Public void, tell it like it is. Funny. Oh, Mondays are bad, Fridays are better, weekends are best. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, this is an example with switch case, which I use in the here for the random tile selection. I use cases. That was something my brother helped me with a long time ago. So yeah, I was thinking of using it for to distinguish the corridor and the culture type tiles, to give them an enum, because now I already had it, but I think I don't use it in the end because ChatGPT just already gave me that idea. But where was it? I just saw it. Oh yeah, here I use it as get culture tile type, return tile type, so that must be in tile then. No, of course not. That's in the specific tile. So tile type is corridor or is culture. I have a Boolean for it. Oh, that's maybe I just thought it just before when starting. Maybe I mixed the two up, and that was the Boolean I was get culture return. Oh yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, because here get culture tile type. I return the culture tile and the corridor tile. Didn't I leave that in as well? Anyway, I already have that, and I was thinking of using it there, but I'm gonna read this whole explanation. Switch statement. Names are commonly used in switch case statements with each possible value of the enum variable is used as a case. Yes. And singleton design pattern. Okay, this is going into design patterns. I don't know what a singleton design pattern is, of course. Java ensures that any enum variable is instantiated only once. Alternatives. Before enums were introduced in Java 5, constants were typically used for fixed set of values. And these constants could be defined using final variables. Another common approach is to declare each constant as a public static final variable inside a class. Again, it says something, it does not provide a type safety. That I don't see the implications of all that. And class hierarchy. If each constant should have a different behavior, class hierarchy could be created where each constant is an instance of the class. That's what I do now, I think. Okay, but it can be more complex. But I think that's what I'm doing now. Because like I have this hierarchy of inheritance of classes with subclasses, and then I have a tile, I have the two types, and then those two types have different types, terrain types. Oh yeah, it treats tile type, the enum tile type as something different here in my class hierarchy. It's interesting. I was wondering why this is with a capital, public enum tile type with a capital. Asking ChatGPT if it has some disadvantages of the enums. After reading all this explanation, I'm understanding it less than I thought I was. Template types you either use and ability use in switch statements. That seems switch statements. Yeah, but then here with this switch, in this switch statement, I use culture tile is defined as culture tile. That's just an instance of culture tile. I just want to use it to distinguish if I get the tile info, that I have an easy way to distinguish between the two. What I do in here when I initialize the board, I just tell them that for the culture you have 4 choices of terrain, and for the corridor it's the same, but is there inherently, I want to have this separation. Yeah, I might be mistaken, but I do think the way I use it here, the enumeration, it's just to add a fixed categorization so that I can easily access that and do logical operations on that. Because when I was creating select tile stuff, etc., so when I tried to select a tile, now I had this kind of complex method where I separately search for the corridor and the culture tile, etc., and I don't want it. I just want the tile, whether it's the one or the other, to simplify these methods, and that I can return the tile type, etc., just from there. Now I'm duplicating methods and also using the grid hexagon, and I don't think I need all that stuff. So in tile, I'm gonna do that as well. Public enum terrain type, grass tile or grass terrain. Tile thingy seems superfluous right now, but I'd rather have names that are too long than stuff that is confusing. Because now I do have a class hierarchy, of course, but different terrains will have different functionalities, like for example water not being accessible. How do I say it? They have some functionalities that's independent of their superclass, that is specific for their tile, etc. And so I think this might be useful actually. Oh, I'd rather have this abstract method of get tile type below the enumeration tile type, and then I make an abstract method, abstract being inherited, need to be implemented in its subclasses, and this will be an abstract class of terrain type, a method, sorry, of tile terrain type, get terrain type. That's it. Do I need, no, that's, okay, yeah, so this, with the capital, that's an enumeration. That's interesting. Oh, it's like a class. Oh yeah, that was I was confused. Normally in it's only classes that are, as far as I know, that are written with with a capital. So here in tile, I do have public tile get tile, and I want to expand. I want to have another method like get tiles get tile, but then I have a string get tile name, which should return the tile name, which that in the end it's only inherited by the specific terrain types. Oh, might want to change this as well. Tile name to terrain name, because tile name can lead to confusion. I do want a string, but I'm not sure if I need it because I can just transform the enum to a string. But I will, for the moment, I will keep the enumeration just as a method to select, like a selector, like an indicator. And string, of course, I need to change it here. Terrain. Yeah, then so I know I have to change all the units. All the terrains, because that was the tile name. Terrain tile name. Terrain name. Terrain tile name. Terrain name. I should do search and destroy. I should use that. Yes. New name. Get terrain name. Okay. Found potential matches. Please review changes on the preview page. Get terrain hierarchy declares a method get terrain name. Yes. Oh, where's the preview window? Oh. So can I? Is there a way to implement them? I have no idea. Probably there's a way to implement that piece of code in other terrain types. Yeah, anyway, we'll see that later. I should the renaming has worked, but now to implement the missing methods. So that was, I was distracted by the name that I changed. That was terrain name. This is terrain type. Get tile type. As far as I know, in this subclass, you just return null, and then in the next class down. Oh, I already put him down there. Great. Yeah, now I have this Boolean is corridor is culture. That's pretty useful because I think a Boolean is useful so you can change the value somewhere. And that's not a thing, that's a constant. So this if it's a corridor or culture, it's a constant. And a Boolean, the thing is that you can set it on or true or false. So that's going out. I need these kind of thing enumerations or other things for that. Oh yeah, that's just that position list. That stuff goes away too. That was my old positioning stuff. What is it missing? Oh yeah, no, the abstract method now, of course, because that is in here. Yeah, doing some cleanup. That's very good. Set tile defense bonus. Tile. Okay, that can stay, it's not useful. It's an integer. And then a Boolean is unit allowed. That same thing, that should be constant. There might be a case for something like that that is a Boolean. Is building allowed, is unit allowed. Now that's the logic of where stuff is allowed, but that's also constant mostly. There might be changes according to whether there is a building or something or unit already present. There might be changes in there. It might change from allowed or not allowed. It might change the one way or the other, but that's, I guess, not like I said, not the way to do it with a Boolean that can switch on or off. Okay, I want to, when I retrieve a tile, I want to have whether it's a corridor or culture, I want the name of the terrain and the type, and I want the coordinates, the WH, the coordinates where it is in the array. And I already have in BoardElement, I have a method to get W and get H. And that's just for everything below this. that's gonna have that W and everything that is, and because all tiles, etc., these BoardElement and the shape class are superclasses of the tiles. So they will have a W and an H assigned, and this can also, I can also use it for the units later on, because they're somewhat separate from the tiles, of course, but they, for drawing them on the board, they still need those values, but not assigned maybe to them. They might just take the value of the tile they're on, and that I use that for drawing. Because I already concluded that I don't want instances of units to have a W or H value, because when they are created, they are not on the board, not always on the board right away. Sometimes they are, sometimes they are not, but I need that flexibility. And in fact, they only need to have those values when they're placed on a tile. So I might, I definitely need to take it out as an argument here. That's something I definitely need to take out of there. So this, for now, I need to implement those types in all the terrains. I might as well do that. So passing through all the terrain classes, all the tile classes, in fact, because that's just the class who's lowest in the tile hierarchy. Just paste the method in there and change tile name to terrain name. Linguistically speaking, seems a bit overkill, but, and the last one, those are just 8 solids. So save the whole bunch. Yeah, it really works. Oh yeah, another thing that was fun and important that I wanted to do is have all kinds of print a lot of things to console. So here I have a lot of tagged out code. Oh my god. I have a print board method that ChatGPT wrote for me, most of it. And I will put that method in when I run the board. What is it called? I think it's just print board. I'm looking for it. Yeah, it's just print board, like that. Because I had the method, but I wasn't using it. Yes, I have errors. Right. So now here in the console, you can see exactly what it does. Empty, empty, empty. Okay, the first one, left upper one, it starts in the left upper corner, is empty and jungle. And the empty is the culture tile that I tell it not to create, to have these corridor tile on the edges without culture tile. Because remember, like this highlight, the hexagon that makes the grid, has the corridor on the face, and then left lower corner here, that's where the culture is drawn, and that's repeated from left to right and from up to down. So that's because I told it in one of the other videos to make this one an empty one, because I want it enclosed with the corridor and the bottom as well. Oh, what is it? What happened? Got out of the window, I guess. And then, yeah, down here you can see as well that it has empty, 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 and then the corridor. And why does it do big errors when I? Oh, now it doesn't move, of course. So yeah, that's what I want more of. More print for when for testing purposes, to see if stuff actually happens. So I'm going to add that anywhere where I think it's useful, like with my select unit stuff, and also for the select tile, what I was working with. Oh yeah, I got distracted. I was telling the what is it called? The parameters, or the info I want from every tile when I mouse over, for example, when I select it. So that was the corridor or culture type, just the type, and then the terrain, either the name or like I created the enumerations now, and the W and H coordinates. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay, so yeah, but the get W and get H I already have. And then I want to create a method that combines these things, like get terrain info, for example, and that returns all those things. I probably have to then make them all into a string, I guess. Not sure. But that's a new thing. How can I return? Because so I have two enumerations to return, of which one I already have a string also. Train name. Oh, I've been stupid. I've been implementing train name, but not the enum. And I had the method for that, terrain type. So I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna pass over all that. Do a and then return terrain type point. Oh, now I have this autocomplete error again. I need to fix this. This is annoying. Legacy Java doc compilation for computer all. To avoid this message, disable the. Okay, so I have no idea what this is all about. It said either to disable Java proposals. Oh wait, that wasn't the whole name. UI legacy Java doc completion proposal computer all. Something with legacy. Enable non-blocking completion. I have this strong suspicion I need to update stuff. Legacy Java doc completion proposal computer all. As far as I know, I have everything on default. How can I content assistant? That's what it was called. Okay, so at least it doesn't crash anymore. Oh, need to take out the abstract, so that one is good. And now I have to pass through all the terrain types again, like I did before, but I forgot to do this right away. I can also use this. I can also just have tile. No, yeah, that's because it's weird. I want a tile. Like I can't have a terrain type, an instance of tile, and this one is called jungle, for example. But I also want an instance of tile, or have an instance of tile, which then would become instance of CorridorTile. That's the way I have it now, and it gets kind of confusing. Then I have an instance of CorridorTile, an instance of tile, but they're all tiles, so I think I like this better. Maybe I will regret it later, like is often the case. And I have this weird import tile point terrain type. That was a weird experiment. Take out the unused imports as well. I have no idea if it has anything to do with what is it called, performance or anything, or importing all those stuffs. But up, go away. I can just re-import them if I need them. It starts whining anyway. The IDE helps me see that, so why not take them out? Makes it all seem cleaner, tidier. Okay, yeah, the Boolean is culture up, go away. TextureSquare, not really needed at the moment. The shape, yes, that's important. Position list, go away. Up, don't want that. Move the array to CorridorZone. CorridorZone, new utility. Oh, that was for the corridor zones. I might do something with that. I might. That's one thing I had on my list, I think, to change this back. Now I do it in the, where is it? In my grid. I put in the zones, I think. Yeah. And no, I want to put them in the CorridorTile class. It's more logical. Because here really every CorridorTile has those zones. And it's kind of weird. I was fighting with it before with recursion, with infinite loops and stuff, because I was instantiating. That's the word I was looking for. New instances of classes in multiple places. When I was trying to do the random tile somewhere else, because I wanted to do the random tile also inside the culture or corridor class, but finally in the end I think it might not be super logical, and it's a good place to do that when I initiate the random board, because I could create another board and thus don't do the random thingy, so I could use culture and CorridorTile instances without doing the random thing, so that is pretty okay. That's elsewhere. But the corridor zones, the subdivision for the corridor zones is yeah, that would be logic to have it right in there, because they're always there. Except for now, water isn't accessible, but yeah, but that's more the exception, and it might be, and then I can just disable highlight, for example, to show that it's not accessible, and then disable other things, of course. So units on tile is the array list. I have a tile, find tile at point. So this is the stuff that is now being used by my that I need for the placement of the unit. To select the tile, I need to find the tile. And oh yeah, here I have two methods: one for find corridor tile, one for find culture tile. Yeah, that I am hoping that what I'm doing with the tile and the enumerations is that I don't need all this stuff. I think I don't even need it right now. I think it was like in one of my videos was kind of a misunderstanding with ChatGPT. And I want to get rid of this stuff I use grid hexagon to find the tile at the point. I want to use the grid hexagon to structure my board and to have the coordinates in the array and just have one array of those hexagons. But I don't think I need it to access the tiles, and I'm doubting, but I think I want to get rid of this, that they take the arguments of culture and corridor tile, that grid hexagon takes those arguments. I think I just want a method. I'm still doubting, because I don't really see, except that I use some hexagons that have only a corridor tile. For the borders, I don't really see a reason to have them separate. But on the other hand, I don't really see a reason to do it like this. It's kind of weird in my eyes. Those are not for me. Those aren't parameters. So and I'm also repeating the get tile method, which is not good. Tile. I'm actually recreating the get tile method. I might break something with it, but that's not what I want. Yeah, that's about what I want to change. There's one other thing, that is when I use the copy. I will ask that ChatGPT. It said something about that later, when the what is it called? Command, and when not to use it, because I already had talked with it about it, and as far as I know, with super you get access to it, and you can, which implies that you can potentially change them also, and that's not something I want with this super thing. So, the keyword it's called, not a command, came into picture. The keyword super came into the picture with the concept of inheritance. Yes. To call parent class constructors is calling a constructor in the parent class that takes two integer parameters. Correctly initialized before the subclass's constructor code runs. But the parent class is correctly initialized. What? Yeah, the weird thing is, let me see for sure. This extends BoardElement. That in BoardElement, the only thing I do is create those fields. I don't assign values to them. I do use them to change the rendering and the coordinates, of which I talk in another video. So they are initialized in board when I create the board array. Here it gives a value to the W and the H. When it creates a grass, a terrain type, that's the lowest class in my hierarchy. And then it gives that WH argument all the way up to the abstract classes of it has the terrain, then it has a corridor culture, then it has style, then it has BoardElement, and then it has shape class. Or the shape class doesn't have access. So all the way to the BoardElement class, and there it's used to transform to screen coordinates with this set x, x, y for WH. So I use all that super crap. Where was I? Oh yeah, here in in tile, sorry. I use all that. So this is typically done in a subclass as constructor to ensure the parent class is correctly initialized before the subclass constructor code runs. Yes. To call parent class constructors, to call parent class methods. Can be used to call methods in the parent class that have been overridden by the subclass. This is used when the subclass method needs to do something extra, but also perform the original functionality. Okay, that's not something I do, I think. And to access parent class variables. If a field in the parent class is hidden by a field in a subclass, EA, they have the same name. You can use super to refer to the field in the parent class. Yeah, well, that's not very smart, is it? You would use super when you need to call the parent class constructor. So no, I don't have. Yeah, I have this way is way, and this W is W, and this H is H. But then I also have the getter and setter methods. The getter methods. Oh yeah, of course. Here I set them. There I get them. Which can be done, of course, at this level, but yeah, okay, yeah. So what I'm doing isn't that weird, apparently. Oh, that's the repetition of what it says there. Not use when you would not use super when you're not in a subclass, of course. We don't want to call the parent class constructor. Okay, that's by default, the no argument, but I use it with the WH as arguments every time. Okay, but what this doesn't seem problematic. I was thinking of taking the WH down the line when units also extends. Where's my unit thing? Units also extend the BoardElement. Oh wait, piece. Okay, yeah, pieces are where I separate pieces and tiles. But they also extend BoardElement, and I was thinking that they don't need, they can't use the W and H as an argument all the time. Like I said, I need to be able to initialize them without that, to put them in lists without being placed on the board, and those are specific board coordinates. So I was thinking, because in BoardElements is the parent class of both of them, that I move them down a level to tile, but then I get problems with, but then I could be getting problems with some certain methods or things I have here. Although in a quick view here, the only thing that needs them is the transformation to draw the board, to render the board on screen. And I was thinking I need that for units too, but then I was thinking this is relative to the screen, to an origin point, X, Y, upper left corner, etc., and gets transformed. I was thinking for the units, I need the same kind of function, but relative to the tiles, not to the. I place those tiles, etc. Then I can, position the units according to those positions of those tiles. I don't need to do the whole WH transformation again. Effect actually. So I think I will try to change this effectively to the tile level. Let me see in my hierarchy. BoardElement, tile piece, and I have CorridorZone still. Why didn't they make that a subclass of CorridorTile? Because it's not a tile. Right, because that's not a tile. Good. Tile position. That's the whole. Yeah, it was pretty. That was the old system I was using. It was pretty. It did work to put most of the code is not used, but did work to put on my temporary thingies on the board. But yeah, and this was kind of what I was just saying about being relative to the tiles, but I didn't use it that way. I think I'm gonna delete all that. Keep it in mind for a bit. I'll write it down. Oh, why don't I return a shape here? But of course that's in the CorridorZone East, that's in the subclass. And I'm still running around with the textureSquare. Whatever, you can stay. Might be for text box or something later. I'm losing my train of thought again, as usual. Yeah, oh yeah, I was thinking of taking out the BoardElement, the WH in the BoardElements. Then again, I was thinking of separating them entirely to not have a common ancestor, a common parent for tiles and board pieces. They do have maybe a shape in common, they have draw outline in common. I think they have enough in common regarding what's going on the board. Like, yeah, I have a draw outline here, I have a shape. That's kind of reusable. I'm looking for my shape class. Here it is. Most of the shapes, but I didn't do much with units yet, is, yeah. I'm wondering whether it's interesting to use it as if there's reusability in here, or whether that's just one little hang up that I have to get over, and whatever is similar in both classes, in the pieces and the tiles, that I can easily do that double. Or either join those two classes, highlight or texture paint, whatever. I can I think for now what I want to do, here it's something that needs the method that transformed the screen coordinates with the array coordinates. I use it in a draw method. Yeah, but then again, that would be logic also to have in tiles one level lower, and then have a separate one for that. Do I have a drawBoard method in here in board? I guess, huh? Yeah, drawBoard. Why don't I put it in drawBoard? I can test it out. Does my stuff still work? Or did I break things? Yeah, it works. I like how it puts it in the console. That's a good thing. When I copy him and tag him out, and when I put that in the drawBoard, draw. Oh, I don't have. Oh right. Yeah. No, wait. Stupid. Needs to be in the loop, of course. Tile. Okay, that's actually okay. Yeah, that was draw. So I can I do that? You can call another method like that. No, doesn't work like that. Whether if I copy the array like that, point s set, yes, that. I use them on the grid like here. Let's see what it does. Probably gets me all kinds of weird. No, there it works. Yeah, when I take it out, it goes in the upper left corner. Is that it? Yeah, here it is. Okay, yeah, I really start to understand things a bit. So if I tell for all of them, I tell them to transform them here. Oh, I should probably do that before I draw them. Does that work as well? Oh, it gives less errors also. So that actually works. So I can, because why would I have this here? And that was the only thing that needed that. And then like I said, I can do the transformation. I can get that out of here, and I put all this stuff in tile. I'm tempted to do it in 2 steps to keep, like, what is the definition of, I'd even prefer to have it in the shapes, because I'm working with all those X loops and stuff, etc. there. I am tempted to keep it there, but then again, I can just merge these two classes, and then or rename them or separate them sooner. Make one really for the general stuff and make the other for the general stuff, and then take all that's in BoardElements either to its subclass of piece or tile or to the superclass and get rid of this stuff. It's just one too many. Places the unit list, da-di-da-di-da. Yeah, it all goes away. No, I'm not going to rewrite that. I was thinking maybe I should keep it for example what I had, but no. Element selector, right, grid position. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take either I'm gonna take it to another level. No, I'm gonna take it either up or down a level. Yes, and I'm gonna rename that at certain point. So this is gonna go down to tile, and I also need the integers, of course, integers, whatever. Never know how to pronounce it. They can go up top because they're pretty important. Oh, I kinda took out the constructor. X, you go in the constructor, and super is implied, so you can go. Doesn't take that. Up, you go out of there. This is just empty. Oh, tile, and I do need int way int like this, and then the getter and the getters also for both. They get in there. They can be right up there, and then that probably will still work, won't it? For the type grid hexagon. Is that because that's for tile, that's not for grid hexagon? Why did it work before? It wasn't defined for grid hexagon either. Oh, the grid hexagon did extend it. Right. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, now I created a problem because I just extended BoardElement. I also extended BoardElements with the grid hexagon. That was also a subclass. This way, I want the tiles to take the WH from the coordinates from the grid hexagon. That's the one that gets in the array. So, but this goes straight to tile. Yes, this goes straight to culture and CorridorTile. I can't even. No, I need it in tile. I want it in tile. So, let me see. So it doesn't get it from the super anymore. I don't want tile to be a subclass of grid hexagon tile. Yes, I forgot about those. So I kind of forgot a bit about the hexagon, and now I'm wondering whether that's a smart idea what I did, because now I have to make it so that the tile gets its WH from. I need the grid hexagon to. Oh, tile is an abstract class as well. The get W and H should be from the grid hexagon instance. The tile needs to get its WH, needs to get its coordinates from the grid hexagon where they're on. Let's say the grid hexagon that contains them. And they get initialized in board. It's just this. If is null, new grid hexagon, and its coordinates and the culture and the CorridorTile. So might that then be the best way, or I can also just create a method to do the same thing. And I probably want to use those enumerations for that. Does seem kind of complicated to do it another way right now. Oh, let's create an instance of grid hexagon. And public grid hexagon return return grid hexagon disband grid hexagon is grid hexagon. No? Oh, missing a capital. I don't need this. Voilà. What do I need it? Not sure. This grid hexagon is no, that's itself. Of course, that's that. Do I need this? Do I need this? Still work? Doesn't. Okay, I'm keeping them for now. Then I want, oh, of course it's not running. What I'm trying to do. Let me see. When it is getting created in board, where is it initiated? Public culture tile. Actually, there's nothing being initiated. This CorridorTile is CorridorTile, is culture-tile. There's nothing being instantiated. I just use them as what? I just use them to return a CorridorTile, and then in board, random CorridorTile is new culture-tile. Okay, yeah, I do it here. I say the culture-tile is a new thingy. So here they're actually instantiated in the board. And then I do all kinds of complex things to say that's a whole lot of brain fuckery. A whole lot of brain fuckery. I could have done all this grid hexagon weirdness just in board. Yeah, I was thinking I could simplify this even more, but thinking this all through, I think this is actually, for now, the better method. I say that the whole array has to be initialized with the grid, with the coordinates, of course, and then each one has a corridor and a culture tile, which I do the random method here, which I might probably want to separate also, but anyway, in a method, even in here, but this works well, but it gets kind of unreadable. And with this logic, I do the culture tile, corridor tile thingy. Here I give them I instantiate the train classes, and thus the culture or the corridor tile. They just have that's manually defined here. With the ENUMS, I could somehow simplify this as well, still more. But now I should have access to this from the level of the tile. It's just a superclass that should go up. That is probably okay. Probably need this as well, but then it gets in the board. It gets instantiated on the lowest level of terrain, but through either the corridor or the culture tile superclass, which is a subclass of this one to not make things too simple. And but I want all this in the tile to have easy access later. So now, yeah, and because I was worrying, but because I get these WH from when they're instantiated, everything will work out fine. And I didn't have them here in grid hexagon, but they get assigned in the board. That's okay. But before that, he got them from BoardElements. So I do have like it's at like a copy. What is it? It's double, and I'm not sure for this method. I'm not sure whether I need to. All right. Ah, yeah. So now I broke the CorridorZone because that one gets them as well. So in the end, this seemed like a pretty stupid thing to do, wasn't it? Do they need them? How can I test it without destroying everything? Because they have a shape, which is in the shape class. So that's another good question. Do they lose all their thingies? I'm just going to test it because I can't help myself and see whether the whole CorridorZone. Oh, of course I cannot test it because the code isn't working. Construct the CorridorZone east is undefined. East. This is now lining because it still has the super in there. Go away. I'm breaking everything. It's good. Okay, so undefined for the type grid hexagon. That's in board. Yeah, now it of course it doesn't work, and it's also complaining that I don't have the set XY method doesn't exist for grid hexagon. I was too focused on that I only had the difference between tiles and pieces, and I didn't take into account that I had the corridor zones and the grid hexagon and the tile that were dependent on, for example, the set XY method, and also the WH was actually done on that BoardElement level. So like I said somewhere, it might be logical to make a difference between where those three, the tiles, the hexagons, and the zones, where they split off from pieces on the board, and use the BoardElements as their superclass, then have one abstract superclass that is now the shapes, and make below that two subclasses, one with those things that go into drawing the board, and one direction where the pieces are made. Because yeah, now I'm confusing myself, and now I'm complicating this stuff way more than necessary. So I'm gonna reverse this and keep that abstract class. So I'm taking this back out. Now I was trying to put the setXI method, etc. everywhere around here. Now I'm realizing that's just not that's not the draw method. That's not the set. I need the whole method. So come to daddy. I'm going to reverse this stuff. I should do this with builds instead of, but let me do some manual labor as punishment. That's good for me. So I can take that back as well. BoardElements does the WH assignment on that level because they all depend on that. So it wasn't that bad in the end, but okay. If I hadn't tried this, I wouldn't have known. So you can have the super back like that. Why is it complaining? Oh, BoardElement is missing those, of course. Int W, int H, so like so. Yeah, and and the get. Where's my grid? The get W and get 8 method was in BoardElement at first, and I was running. Especially, I was running into a problem where, so for some reason, I had to figure out some way to pass those coordinates from the grid hexagon to the tiles, and in my old way it was already there. So grid hexagon goes back to super. Oh yeah, the corridor zones I broke as well. So that was an experiment, and I broke. Let's do some copy paste instead of typing everything in, and it needs the super as well. Yeah, this was some experimenting, but now at least it was useful in the sense that now I know this was shit. See if I fixed my mess. No. Oh yeah, I tagged some stuff out in board grid hexagon. This is what I tagged out. And this case can go away. New culture tile. Stuff can go away as well. Mess. Oh yeah, tag this one out. And I made a mess of this one. Yes. Still not some. The superconstructor is undefined. Implicit superconstructor board element is undefined. Must explain for another constructor. Board element is not undefined. Piece. What's wrong with piece? Oh yeah, piece. Piece. I can take it out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm right. Yes, because of course this one has those. I cannot just make a subclass that doesn't have those arguments. So effectively, I'm gonna make piece extend BoardShape up and yeah, whatever BoardShape, and then it needs border width right away. And yeah, that can go into graphic stuff. I need to rename that thingy, but anyway, that will just oh yeah, and draw outline. That's one that was in BoardElement. Draw outline. Okay, wait. Move to BoardShape, and I'm gonna rename BoardShape into something more logical. BoardShape, and this one too. Move to BoardShape. Highlight, don't know. Texture paint, probably as well. So yeah, that would be more general graphical elements that I could reuse, which I could, like I said before, I can do them. I can double up, but I don't think this will keep my stuff from running, does it? Oh, it does. Load image, shape, method shape. Shape also in BoardElements. Shape. Oh yeah. Yeah, shape. So now move to BoardShape. Now I know all the stuff that isn't going to work. That one. Basic stroke. Probably as well. Move to BoardShape. I need a capital, by the way. Otherwise my OCD gets the better of me. And what was the other one? Shape, load image. Yeah, load image. Move to BoardShape. Maybe make it a comment. Yeah, and like the setX, let's set the coordination transformation. So this shows I can maybe the draw function even move up one level, depends. Maybe I can make a new one, but that probably won't be logical. Or I will have a draw board or draw board element stuff and a draw unit thing. That depends. Probably use the move it up for now, and when I need separate things. And that just get this in my mind. If I want to have different ways of drawing something without using if not this or that or etc., like I do a bit in the board, I can also avoid that bit, making a better structure, of course, sometimes. Having different methods for different units. If things get too different, the same goes for the inverse. If things are too much samey, it doesn't need all those different methods and stuff. I can just do some logic like if then else, etc. Instead of doing all kinds of structures like I'm doing now. So Yes. Will it finally run now, or do I still have an error? Oh yeah, no, of course it doesn't work. TextureSquare, type hunter. TextureSquare isn't in this one, is it? It's a method, apparently. Oh, it's just telling that it doesn't, but then it should be in BoardElement. Am I stupid? BoardShape, load image, contains point. Where's my hunter? Rectangle 2D, TextureSquare, in supertype BoardShape. Oh, apparently I killed it. Text point, TextureSquare culture, TextureSquare corridor, and it is just TextureSquare. Whatever, go away. So let's continue to move the stuff from the BoardElement to the BoardShape. This is going to be a pretty messy class, but that's no problem. The methods, do I put them below the shapes? I put them down here for now. Let's fix the indentation. If it source, right? Correct. Wasn't too bad. See if this is used. TextureSquare. String element coordinate. Yeah, I'll throw that away. That was something I have to write the coordinates of the cursor, but it was working without that. So border width. So the float border width goes to BoardShape as well. Yeah, this is getting pretty messy. Keeping the little fields, what is it called up there? Take out my comment. Yeah, and this is the same string element coordinate. I don't think it's used. Not sure how I'm doing that at the moment. Fix two problems, import, go away. Highlight. Okay, and there I had another get WH that can go away as well. And then the whole load image thingy goes there as well. Yeah, I can see while doing this, I can see the logic of having those two separated. But then again, I might, yeah, the way it was named, I have shapes. I might just make another class with those shapes, and only this kind of thing where I draw shapes with line 2, etc. Then again, and oh yeah, I already talked about the draw function. That too would go to there because I can always put them one level down when I want another draw function for the unit, for the pieces. Set xy for wh. Do I still have them in the board? What did I do? Draw board function. Oh yeah, that will be difficult. Yeah, then I can do. Maybe I can just decide now to make another draw function for the units, because otherwise I have to move the whole WH to the level above that because I do the transform. Yeah, definitely there will be another place or way to do the transform, like I already did it in the board, but probably I will have to change the whole logic of my stuff. By the way, this was missing image. Let's finish it one thing at a time. Fix those three problems. Image is there's image, perfect image. No, goes up there as well. And then I saw you can go texture paint. That's used in draw. Highlight. What is it called? Oh, that's an enumeration as well, isn't it? Oh no, apparently it's with a color. Is that enumeration? That's not sure because it's in all caps. No, that's a type of color, and apparently that's the way it works. Oh yeah, here I use it in set color. Okay. What is it? Element selector. Okay, that's what I want to use. Point grid position. This is what I want to rewrite. Contains point. Click point is highlighted. Oh yeah, here is what's click point. I was in another video wondering why it stayed highlighted when I was using that. Is highlighted. True. Okay, I'll do it like that. I think I need to import some stuff. Perfect image, for example. Why doesn't it tell me that it's... oh, I already have it here. Okay. Good. The constructed piece integer is undefined. Oh yeah, I have to fix all my units pieces, everything under here. Oh, that wasn't the right delete. I have to fix all this. Unit, and how about piece? Okay, all this piece set x, y point, return no point base, delete, get y, position culture center. Okay, that was positions, and then I can check. Do I do that? I had the tile position stuff. Does it? I try to open it. Does it use? There's a function, a method for shape get center, position point, get x, get y. I can just center point. Oh yeah, get bounds, get center, x, y. That's what I used, and that's what I can use to base the position of my units on, instead of basing them on the whole board context with the array, place, etc. I can start from if I do this in the right order. Yeah, I have the whole miggly doodly. No, that I already took out. Unit. Then there's building that has the same. That goes away, and then I have to go through all the individual buildings and units. Okay, let's do this. Otherwise my code won't run. Oh, I still have tile position in here as well. Go away. Wasn't bad though, the tile position thing. I'll probably be putting in something similar quite soonish, but now I prefer to start from scratch. Probably more efficient ways of doing this kind of stuff. Road is another subclass. I can do the same to that. The units. I did put in some values already. Oh, it's called hunting ground. Okay. So that's gone. Let's see. Hunter, int. Oh yeah, in game loop now. I use it for the new hunter. I use it to place the unit, the first unit. Is there any mention of hunters, or is it just unit, etc.? Yes. Okay, let's see if it breaks again. Yes, it does break again. The method draw is undefined for the type unit. Yes, of course. Draw board and the draw board method. Get first unit on tile, and that's because I left the draw method in the BoardElement. BoardElement. I need to rename this. I feel. Yeah, it's all board. Yeah, that's specifically board. What's the distinction between, yeah, there's tiles, of course. I could call it tile element, but it's not all tiles, no. Yeah, okay, after a bit of thinking, I have this BoardShape, but this name is now not very clear, and that is that goes into subclasses of piece, which below there are the different types of pieces, building units, roads for now, and then the board elements. Below that are all the elements that make up the board, really the playing board. The tiles, the zones in the corridor, and the grid hexagons. And I'm gonna rename this. How is it done? I can refactor that normally to, I'll just call it, I was breaking my brain about a name, but it will just be shape. It doesn't cover everything I do in there, but update references, update similar named variables and methods. Next. Oh yeah, last time I clicked finished right away. Type named shape. Oh, import shape. Oh shit, yeah, I can't do that. It's already a class. Okay, cancel. What's a nice name for this? I can make it shapes plural, but that's not done normally. Let's just call it game shapes. Game shape then. Rename to game shape. So that's more, makes clear that it is as well the board as the pieces. Oh, finish I did again. Should have done next again. Okay, whatever. Game shape, yeah. Oh, just have to save it. So that changed to that, and then I was thinking, I decided to the shape I keep, the shape method, but the basic stroke and is draw outline, I moved that back to BoardElement, and I'm gonna make the draw and the load image, etc. I'm gonna make that specific for the pieces, because probably I have a lot of different ways I want to treat units, etc. compared to the tiles. So I'll just make that a double then in the piece stuff, and then this will be called draw board element, just missing an N. Can I refactor? Oh yeah, the draw. Can I refactor that? Rename options. Draw board element. Preview. Found potential message. Please review changes on the preview page. How do I get to the preview page? Continue. Oh, that's this one. Public void draw. Yeah, that's this one. Why doesn't it give the others? Oh yeah, and of course in the draw board method, I call the draw, so that has to change. How do I get to the next ones? How does it work? Next change. Yeah, whatever. No, I'm not gonna rename them for now, but it might in the future lead to confusion. But then it's already in BoardElement, so on draw BoardElement, I think that's useful because in board I will be calling the other as well. Don't want to have too much confusion. Finding the rest of my errors. Oh yeah, right, I need the draw and the load image for the piece. I was going to copy them. Didn't I do that? No, I didn't. So draw outline, basic stroke, and load image. All these methods I'm gonna duplicate in piece. Get piece name, piece shape. Oh, draw outline is already here. All these booleans that draw outline, you can go. By the way, I'm gonna replace this one with an abstract method like that, so it doesn't get. And this draw function is gonna be draw a piece. I might find the simpler one. The one is called piece, and the other one is BoardElement. Yeah, whatever. It's kind of okay. And the settings can go away. And draw piece. And why is it add cast to? What is that? And then I also need to double the copy the. Oh yeah, border width, etc. I took it all out, right? Yeah. That needs to go to BoardElements again. And I need that in piece as well. Oh, I put them in the wrong place, of course. I'm reading it wrong. It's here, of course. I was thinking that was the constructor there. I was just reading it wrong. The is undefined for the type graphics 2D. Oh yeah, where was that done? Where is all that stuff done? Let me find out. A draw is maybe a method. Graphics 2D. Draw is a method of graphics 2D. I cannot just. Okay, yeah, of course. I can name the method differently, but I cannot. Oh yeah, that's just a G2 point draw. I cannot. Let's put it above here. whatever. I don't know what's the right order. So, and what's here? TextureSquare. Oh, there, I was wondering why TextureSquare here. See if it is used and what. Yeah, it's used in image. TextureSquare. That's specifically for units. Fill the tile depending on tile type. Paint. Texture paint. Perfect image. Texture. TextureSquare is the anchor. Oof, oh la la, I don't know how to read that. Anyway, I do need the TextureSquare used for the image is the image. TextureSquare, rectangle to the TextureSquare. TextureSquare culture, TextureSquare corridor, return. Okay, so that's an abstract method I put in here. That should be implemented in subclasses. TextureSquare, return null. Okay, apparently for now, what is it? TextureSquare. I guess that was specifically for the units, etc. But why texture paint? Set paint. Is it used in? It's not used in those. Is it used in? Follow the after the board elements. There's the tile. Doesn't seem to be implemented in tile. Then CorridorTile. Ah, yeah. TextureSquare corridor. Oh, so I do use that. TextureSquare. Okay. BoardElement. No, I need shapes. Game shape was the new name. So did I use those two? Here. TextureSquare. That's isn't that a circle? So yeah, like it said in the method, that's an texture paint that's used as a rectangle 2D, which is an anchor for the image. But the way I use this code, these thingies, how did I do these coordinates? So this is actually a rectangle, but the way I use it is pretty unreadable. So the thing that I tried way back to use these simple vertices as instead of all these complicated X-looped stuff, etc. That would be very convenient later on to be able to replace them with something that's kind of readable so that I know what I'm doing. And it didn't work out then, but it might have just been that they define them as static here, and so that they don't get transformed with the coordinates to the XY coordinates. So the array coordinates to the XY coordinates. So, but anyway, yeah, I need to really think really hard what I'm doing here. It seems to define a circle with the radius thingy. Yeah, I need to look back into that, a rectangle with location, dimension. Okay. Yeah, no, so they are rectangles. So anyway, I lost oh yeah, so now I need to implement used as an anchor square for the texture paint. Texture paint. Let's give them capitals for readability. And in draw. That's enough. So I copy this to piece as well. Get it close to the draw. Yeah, and then I need to implement at least I need to return null for now. Let's just make it return null for now. In building and in road piece shape, blah blah. Oh, it's already there. Oh, here it is. TextureSquare. Okay. By the way, I like it up there. Piece, building, road, unit. All those booleans. Return null. And then in the hunter, the only one I want to use right now. Out on culture, bloody blah. I want to return null for now, but I need to create texture square hunter unit for now in game shape. If I want to be able to draw the hunter, I need to create that. Like I said, all these booleans that I have here, that's going away. Is draw outline true? Yeah, no. So I need to implement it in the other ones. For now, that's all false. Yeah, well, I can leave them to true if they are. They're not created for the moment, so that won't do any harm. I want the outline, and I want all the buildings to return false for now to avoid problems. Let's see where we are. Draw BoardElement. Oh yeah, of course I didn't change. Yeah, that doesn't exist. Let's just draw. No, I shouldn't have renamed it all like that. Void draw. No, this is called draw BoardElement. Public void draw. That's a graphics 2D. Get first unit on tile. That's called draw piece. Like that. Yeah, that's the problem. Let's see the next series of errors. Draw BoardElement graphic for the type board. In user interface. Board draw. I have a draw. A board that calls the drawBoard method. That's very interesting. Probably a good reason for that, and probably not. Ah, there we are. Okay, so I'm doing a little experiment to see. I changed these pointer. I simplified the name for my coordinates. Changed them. I took out the static designation, and I'm just trying to see if that is enough to see if that again I changed that last time. Java proposals text test focus. Thought I fixed it already. Anyway, line 2 lower left get x lower left get y. Just see if that works. But it breaks all. Proceed. Can it make a static reference? Oh, this one is complaining. Has nothing to do with what I'm trying. Wow, whatever it does, it doesn't work. Illegal path state exception. It should be called move to. It's the first one, not line 2. Move to the starting point. Yeah. And I'm doing everything wrong. That's not. Wow! That's very artistic. But yeah, that confirms my point. So it's not being transformed. So obviously that doesn't transform it with the array coordinates. Then I really have to do that another way, maybe with a method that every time uses that transformation. X loop is X origin. Oh, maybe I should try it the other way around. Yeah. Well, I break my brain about it some other time. Interesting. The other ones continue working. Okay, so that's great. So, and I was thinking to get the corridor zones out of the grid hexagon and move them to the CorridorTile. See if that brings me any unexpected stuff. Oh, I need to fix the indentation because where's the constructor? Every CorridorTile that will be created needs those zones. Get zone dot. I don't see why I cannot do that. Put them down here. I don't use them for anything else yet. Oh, it does break something. CorridorZone is not a field in board 202. Oh yeah, because it's on that's in the draw board because it's now on not on the array gives can I just take that out? Because in the array there are grid hexagons, so it doesn't directly find. I need to pass through the CorridorTile. But can I just ignore? Is there a 4? Can it find it like that? No, it doesn't find them like that. Why does it give an error? No pointer exception. Print tile clicked. Highlighted down, that is no. Okay, that's my find tile method but it doesn't work because it iterates. Yeah, I should do something for each grid thingy. Maybe I can iterate through them or something, but seems a bit cumbersome to draw them one by one, but anyway, it works for now. So now they are initiating here. I can take out this code. That was some CorridorZone array I tried to do. Okay, so that works. That's cool. That's nice. So I moved the corridor zones. I moved them to the CorridorTile. That works without problem. And my whole wanting to clean up my code and use the things I learned so far in my reviewing is turned out to be quite dissatisfying. Didn't change much. Some naming, changed that. The types and the names and everything. I created these enumerations, which I doubt are useful with my current class structure, because I think I can just get the tile type looking at its the terrain types are below the tile type, and I should just be able to return that. But still, maybe it makes it easier to reference them. So, and I did change the structure. I don't need the WH coordinates anymore for all the board pieces. So I did some things, but not very amazing. Let's go to user interface. I see when I run my code, I have an error that occurs when I go to the lower right tile, and it doesn't draw the corridor zones, and it gives an error, and it says tile clicked, which is wrong. I have a null pointer exception that comes from here, from this mouse moved method. Okay, tile, that's the title is wrong. Tile highlighted. That's because it was a copy of the tile clicked, mouse clicked event. Oh, what was that? I just want to highlight it. Is that a problem? So the mouse over event gets a null point exception only when I mouse over on the last thing for some reason. Board, it uses the find tile at point in board, which I already saw that. Where is it? This one. And this one I want to try to make without using the grid hexagon. I'm gonna ask this to gonna make a new ChatGPT, not in 3 and 4, and copy this method. I want to post the whole class of tile. So I'm asking that I'm telling that I want to rewrite the find tile at point method here in the board, but only using the get tile method from the tile class and without using the grid hexagon, if possible. Can you help me with that? Okay, given that your find tile at point method currently looks for grid hexagon objects in a 2D array, and your tile class does not seem to hold any information about its coordinates in a similar structure, it's hard to complete the eliminate grid hexagon from your find tile at point method without refactoring other parts of your code. However, if you have a similar 2D grid of tile objects, okay. Yeah, so if I had an array of tile, that would be no problem. However, as said before, this requires your code to manage a 2D grid of tile objects, similar to your grid of grid hexagon. If such a grid does not exist, creating such a structure would require a broader refactoring of your code. Okay, so yeah, this code, because it needs the position in the array. Yeah, okay, so otherwise I don't have access. It has no idea where it is. I'm thinking I should append it. Shouldn't. It can return the grid hexagon, and then I want to return the one of the tiles that's related to that, and that would be the CorridorTile, but depending on mouse over. I don't want to return them both. Okay, yes, you can just the find tile at point method to return a tile object corresponding to a grid hexagon. Assuming there is a method or property in your grid hexagon class that can return the corresponding tile object. Okay, so I need a get tile in the grid hexagon. Okay, yeah, okay. Now it gets complicated for me. I have a get culture tile type. I wanted to return not both, but either one or the other when the mouse is on that, so when it contains the point. Okay, just with a method. Get tile. Okay, I'm just going to continue to ask ChatGPT because this is interesting. So now I'm going to post my grid hexagon class. I would like the get tile method to return either the culture or the corridor tile. Wait a minute. I first need, what's all this stuff? Face left. Oh, this is still for my faces array list. Neighbor face, face, more face. This can go with, ooh, what? Oh, there was something with the, oh, of course, I'm stupid. That was my tagged out. Let me see. Face, shape, neighbor, iterator, face string. No, this whole stuff can go. Clean it up. Oh, there's more. This whole stuff can go. The old board stuff also up. Okay, that's a nice cleanup. So I was saying I cannot this, or can I? No, I need to do that somewhere else, I guess, with the mouse functionality. I need a get tile in the grid hexagon that returns maybe both. No, I don't. I want to. I would like to get it down to return either the culture, depending on which is pointed at with the mouse. Point. Oh yeah, contains point. Yeah. How does it know where how does it have access to the point? Okay, that's locally. Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know that. I can just call a point here. I don't have a point. Do I have a point class? Oh, that's a standard class. Okay. Interesting. Given your grid hexagon class and the associated tile subclasses, corridor and culture, you could update the find type method to return either culture tile or corridor tile from a grid hexagon. However, there's an important clarification required. Does a grid hexagon contain both culture and corridor at the same time or just one of them? If it's a letter, yeah, no, it contains both of them. If it can contain both, if a grid hexagon can contain both, it becomes more complex. I did post a grid hexagon. Yeah, that's what I just posted. But you can see that, my friend. So I said the grid hexagon class contains both of them. You need additional information or Creator to decide which one to return when a grid hexagon is clicked. One option is to use some form of layering or priority system where one type of tile is considered above or in front of the other. No, that's not what I want. It's just okay. However, if your culture tile coder have their own shapes and these shapes are different, they don't both fill the entire grid hexagon, you could check whether the point is contained in each individual tile shape. Yeah, that's what I'm. In this case, you would need to add a shape method to your tile class and its subclasses. It would run the shape of the specific tile. So I'm asking if I, like my first question, if I can use those shapes because the grid hexagon isn't actually graphically on the board. Ah, yes, that's what I need. Okay, so I check for both separately, but it just is when it's not null, and it contains the point. Then you return the CorridorTile. Oh yeah, see, it's that simple, but I do have to iterate through the array, of course, and then no, I got this has the WH. No, yeah, that's all I need. I wanted to ask her, could I access the corresponding grid hexagon, but of course I can. Okay, it's glad it could help. Happy coding. I should show that to my brother. He will make him fun at more guy. Just started to read a book he's writing, my brother, who is a programmer. I talked about him. And his book is called Why Programming Still Sucks. So I'm going to copy that method for now. Call it file time at point 2 for now. Yeah, here it checks for the shape. And I don't want the grid hexagon shape. I want the okay, and the point goes inside the argument. So why doesn't he find that? Of course, it needs to be a tile instead of a grid hexagon. So, and I'm using this in user interface here. For now, we stick with the mouse over version. Okay, it already has the print. I wanted to add the print, but it already has, thanks to my digital buddy who put that in there already. See what it. No, I need. Go away. I need to use find tile at point 2. And why doesn't he want that? Okay, of course. This is also a grid hexagon tile. Do I have an instance of tile? I don't need it because I directly access an instance of board, I guess. Not sure about that. Doesn't print anything. Oh, wait. Oh! Oh, yeah, I already kind of had it, but then it was in 2 methods. Okay. Okay, if highlighted not is null, so now I have to replace. Let's just ask ChatGPT. Let's just be fucking lazy. So I'm asking how with this changes this mouse event method would change. The method you implemented now returns the specific tile object. You can simply cast the returned tile to the appropriate type and call getTerrainName on it. You will no longer need separate find corridor and find culture at point. Yes, that's what I was. This code will first try to cast a highlighted tile to a corridor tile. If that is successful, it prints the terrain name of the corridor tile. If it is not a corridor tile, then tries to cast culture tile. If successful, prints. If it's neither nor one nor the other, it simply continues without printing. Yeah, if there's no value, because I have places where keep in mind that you should ensure that every tile in your game is either. So it says something about casting. If instance of. Okay, that's something new. Oh, funny. Yeah, that's something I didn't know. If highlighted tile, and it means, I guess, is an instance of CorridorTile, then it does that. Else, if it's an instance of I'll copy that, but that's something new. I didn't know that you can test if it is an instance of. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. If highlighted tile, why doesn't he want that? Tile, highlighted tile is cannot be resolved to a variable. Yes, it can. It's defined in here. Why? Highlighted tile. Do I have some stupid typo? Yes, of course I have a stupid typo. Panicking over a typo, of course. So, is instance of interesting. Let's see if this runs. Does. It gives many errors. It's weird. It's exactly the same as I have if highlighted. Not as null. Oh, okay. I have that one twice. I see it. I see it now. Right, try again. Okay, doesn't tile highlighted. It only works when I go to the last. Yeah, there's something special with that last. It might have to do with the corridor zones. What if I switch those zones off? As long as I don't draw them, that's all where the shape gets a return. And it says mountain. It's not a mountain. And hills. It's not hills either. It's very strange. Hills and mountain alternates between two things. And hills is a culture tile, and neither of them. Oh, maybe it's the invisible one that's. Maybe it's because of the grid hexagon. What if I don't draw? What if I don't draw the grid? What happens? That works. So it doesn't highlight. This is so strange. Jungle desert. What happens when I click? When I click, it doesn't do a thing. When I go down here, it starts going crazy. Grass and water, yeah, with alternating between a culture and a corridor. And the click one doesn't do anything. That's the old select tile method. But that's logical because it returns a grid hexagon. Oh, I think I see a thing. It uses here. I didn't notice. It uses the grid hexagon get culture tile type method also. Oh, in that sense, the other one was maybe even better. This method that returns, it does use that grid hexagon that has been found, but then it uses find tile at point to return the grid hexagon, which then returns the instance of that corridor tile, which of course it always has because it's passed as an argument here. And here it uses get corridor tile type. I think I'm missing the correct methods in the grid hexagon. I get the grid hexagon and I get the culture tile type, corridor tile. That's just not saying anything that I can use to return the enumeration maybe. As this has two tiles, so I have access to those. Get terrain name. What if I get terrain name? Then I use that, not the type. Okay, it doesn't like that. Okay, now this is getting to the get culture terrain name return culture tile. That's not a tile, that's a string. Corridor terrain name. And then in board is the culture tile, culture terrain name, and get corridor terrain name. Okay, now here it just wants a tile. I'm messing things up again, but I don't have to tell them that here because I can access those instances through here. And this is not the type. This is the instance of that. Okay, yeah, that's what I needed. In fact, I'm just confusing myself. So I want a tile here, and then shapes return, blah blah blah, and then in the user interface, get terrain name. That's an instance of tile, corridor tile, right. Proceed. It's not happy. Get culture tile type is undefined in board. Get culture tile type, culture tile. Not is null. Good. Plop. So it still does the weirdy thingy only responding down here. And it doesn't even return the right things. It doesn't do random. It's just alternating between two. Okay, wait. It gives me water here, forest. Okay, it does alternate between those two, which are both. No, forest is the. Let me see. Empty, jungle, water, forest. Yeah, there's something that matter. It's like it's taking the first two over there. So I'm suddenly having a doubt whether the points I use here, contains point, etc., if they translate correctly to the mouse events. I have a mouse clicked and a mouse moved. The one use click point, the other use cursor point. And I'm just wondering how in the code where I use point, an instance of point, how that translates. So I'm trying to find out if they are differentiated or if that's just, okay, the point classing is a fundamental class for handling screen coordinate points. Okay, so it collects the current position or the where there was clicked. That it collects both of them. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. That the point can be used as for mouse clicked as well as for mouse moved. So that should be okay. So this instant of point should suffice. Yeah, so I suddenly saw that I have the instances of point, click point, and cursor point defined up here in user interface, and they are set as static, which is very interesting. So I asked it ChatGPT if that's okay, and apparently it's can be the case, but exceptionally. Multiple instances of the class, since you might want to handle mouse events separately in each instance. These variables are supposed to hold the global mouse position and mouse click position, perhaps in a single windowed application. Making them static could make sense, but it seems like very, as always, how you structure this depends on the overall architecture of your program and what behaviors you want to support. I want to support non-static. It's weird. Not a weird heritage of my stuff. Don't know if it makes any difference for what I was doing. Can I make a static reference to the non-static field? How do I do that in board? Point. I think I can just remove that and change it for point. Other ones, point. In this method, mouse moved, update cursor location. Oh, that's the one I use here. I'm getting a slight suspicion that I'm doing something weird. I use this to get, oh, it's not working at the moment, to get coordinates on top. And I have a slight suspicion that I messed something up with that, because I don't need that method. Oh, messing everything up. Oh, now I get cascading problems. No, I have to fix that another way. This is a Boolean. So I did a little thinking in the meantime. I was kind of fighting with this is highlighted Boolean. This shape contains, that's right, this refers to any object of the BoardElements. I was making a static reference to the point object. I was making a static reference, so way back I made them static to be able to make a static reference to them, and I asked ChatGPT. In exceptional cases, that would be a good idea, but not here. So I made it public. So in principle, I could access it from while creating a field of that. But I'm wondering whether I access the instance of point here or whether I'll ask ChatGPT. So I'm asking what would be a correct way to access the right instance of point in another class. Other class, public void some method. There it makes a new class. Yeah, I don't want to instantiate a new class, I think. Oh yeah, of course, a getter and a setter method. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, again, I'm still stuck on that sometimes. Okay, yeah, then the method is public and the click point is private. Oh, that's interesting, yeah. So that's what every time we talk, but it's ChatGPT is telling me that every time that would be good practice to not give access to those instances directly, but give access with the get and set method. Yes, or some other way of obtaining the instance. Yeah, my brain is still fighting with that. How would I, here it instantiates a new instance of that class, but I'm of probably the mistaken, what is it? Idea that when instantiating a new instance of a class, I have another instance. That's something that wrecks my brain still. I'm wondering if it isn't much more simple. Move this is highlighted to the user interface. And how do I use highlight? Then highlight, I change the method is highlighted. I just tell it then that this board element is highlighted instead of now calling from here. I use it somewhere here. Where was it? I know I use it in board. Our contains point is just a shape method, or contain simply. Public boolean. Okay, I don't even use this contains point method. I think this is superfluous because contains is a method of shape. I probably was trying something with that. If I take it out, does my code work at the moment? Does not. Oh yeah, because of this highlighted thingy here. Is highlighted. I'm wondering whether there was a difference. Ah yeah, I had click point and click point and okay, I wanted to change that to my own method, but that I don't need that, I think. I'll take it out for now, and when it doesn't seem to do anything, I will delete it. To do, no, don't do that. Let me see. I want this boolean. So what would be logic for me is that here in the mouse event, I already have highlighted tile, which doesn't have anything to do with the highlighted tile I have in BoardElement. So if that not is null, I want to set the boolean of is highlighted to true, and this is in CorridorTile. I have access to the CorridorTile. How does that work? I must say, by the way, I was all motivated to after doing all my voiceovers to apply everything I learned when doing the voiceover, etc., to clean up my code and implement what I do understand now. And while doing all this, well, I changed some things and stuff and changed some structure. But I must admit that I'm really quickly getting lost in what I don't understand. So this is, because now I get into these things, it's kind of different. It is actually an extension of what I did in my last video of the get tile method, the select tile method, and I'm getting pretty quickly pretty lost again. So yeah, that's quite humbling. It's like I was like, oh, I know, I understand way better. I understand this way better and that way better. And in reality, it's like, oh my god, I'm so lost again. I have so much to learn. Yeah, I'm missing so much oversight from the basic principles of how stuff interacts with stuff, with other stuff. So yeah, and I should have made this in 2 videos. The one where I'm doing all this to make the select tile to be able to select the tile, because it's all part of that. But I'll just continue with all that stuff. So I was saying, so how do I get, okay, maybe that's also a reason why stuff isn't working like it's supposed to be, because I do the highlight on the level of board elements, but it doesn't go through board. It doesn't go through the constructed board. So I was like, it might be something with that transformation I do from the array coordinates to the screen coordinates that makes it not work as expected. Maybe that has exactly to do with that I'm doing this right now. I'm doing that on a very basic level, although the highlighting worked. And I was trying to do the tile selection, or it might just be the inverse, in fact, because the highlighting worked for all the tiles on the board, but the tile selection didn't work. Maybe I should let. I have an instance of board. Oh yeah, but that's that story of passing the game loop, and the board as arguments for the user interface, wherein I think I have some recursive loop here. This is kind of strange. But anyway, I'm going from the board. Okay, yeah, that's a method, and that method uses the array, so that's covered normally. Okay, let's just ask ChatGPT what it says. So I'm asking, I'm telling that I want to make a reference to to the instance of point in user interface from BoardElement, and what would be a good way of doing that? Just, okay, and it wants to pass user interface as an argument. Does that all the time? I need to ask about that. Oh wait, there's a little answer for it. When you create a BoardElement instance in user interface or another class, pass this, the current user interface instance, to the BoardElement constructor. Yeah, I understand that this, but I was thinking that it's what you use on the class on itself, if you know what I mean. This way, each BoardElement instance has a reference to the user interface that it belongs to. It's one way of doing it, and follows the common pattern of dependency injection. It's important to know that this may introduce coupling between BoardElement and user interface classes. Yeah. Now so if you find yourself needing to access a lot of user interface fields or methods from BoardElement, it might be a sign that you should reconsider your class design. Yeah, that's about. I should choose the inverse in terms of encapsulating. Yeah, in terms of encapsulating and object-oriented best practices, you might want to encapsulate the access to these points behind methods in the user interface class rather than accessing the fields directly. Yes. For example, you could add get click point and get cursor point method to user interface, and then call these methods from BoardElement. That's exactly what I was talking about. But I sense that is what I'm doing wrong. So then it's going to, yeah, it's weird to. I'm gonna ask with all those with all those passing these important classes as instances to the other ones. That's kind of weird. I don't know the right order, let's say, of those, but this seems just weird. I'll give them I will give it these classes and see what it does with it, if it can tell me how to better do that. So what I want to do, I'm wondering if these two methods, mouse clicked and mouse moved, aren't really public point get, what is it called? Click point, yeah. Let's see if I can find it out myself. Return this point. Oh, still that, what's wrong with the content assistant? What does it tell me again? Or disable the Java proposals. Task focused. I have no idea what it does. This, what must it return? This point? I don't invoke the home method. Let's add ChatGPT. How would I write a get click point So just ask ChatGPT how to write it. Ah, yeah, the click point and the cursor point. And mouse event move mouse. It should have cursor point. Oh yeah, here. Okay, that is all. Return click point, turn to right. And then in the end it says, yeah, it says, it straight away tells me how to use them in the BoardElement class, which is beautiful. And I need a user interface field in the board class, it says, but I'm changing that. Remember to make sure that the click point and cursor point are being updated. Your user interface class will now to events occur. Yes, from your earlier code it appears that you are doing this, so it should be good to go. Yeah, we have that. Update click point. It's also good practice to return a new point object in your getters to avoid exposing the internal mutable state. Okay, wait. This way, other classes can modify the original point object, but makes your program more robust. So rather than just returning that click point, it says to create a new point. Then do the same for get, what's it called? Cursor point for hard time writing. And then this returns a new point of cursor point. Like this. And let me think. Let me see if I can ask it to ChatGPT. No, okay. Entered instead of shift enter. Yes, I know. It's checking the same condition twice. Yeah. If your intention was to check for both click point and cursor point, yes, that was originally what it was doing. I love it when it knows what I was. It's kind of amazing. But an instance of user, of course, this design applies to the BoardElement class knows about the user interface class. If you want to avoid this dependency, you could refactor your design so that click point and cursor point are passed into the isHighlighted method directly. So yeah, I'm telling it that I want to do something like that, and then even set this Boolean isHighlighted to true from the user interface class, because I can access the instances of BoardElement there. And then I ask, is this possible, or maybe even better practice? Yes, it's definitely possible, and common practice to encapsulate the control logic within a central class such as user interface. Yeah, this can help make your program easier to reason about, since the user interface can act as a controller that drives the behavior of the other objects. Exactly. To do this, you would need to maintain a reference to the BoardElement instances within the user interface class. Yeah, that's in the board, in the tiles and everything, because then in your event, oh, let's wait for it to finish typing. Yeah, that's the logic I was looking for. I must admit that what I'm, so it's done. What I'm starting to see is that, yeah, in principle, ChatGPT just gives me solutions to the things I propose it that I ask, but it doesn't automatically. It gives me hints, but it doesn't automatically tell me now what you're doing here isn't best practice, you should change it. Like I said, sometimes it does give hints towards that, but I really have to ask it like this to tell me that. It does because it's trained on all the data, it can summarize things as what is common and best practice, etc. It excels in that even, but I have to guide it towards that. And if I have shit code like I have, which built by a total noob, it's perfectly capable to continue building up on that and do all kinds of things that aren't really like the other video I made about learning to code auto prompt, which is a team on the internet that programmers say, yeah, but you can make all kinds of craps code that might work but isn't manageable or is full of holes or isn't scalable or isn't whatever. It's not logical. And yeah, I'm learning to code and I really like structure, my class structure, etc., and where I put things in it. I like it to be logical because I want to understand how it all comes together, and yeah, to help me understand what it does. What you can with programming. I notice you can do all kinds of very illogical things that work, but then yeah, like it was proposing to pass the user interface as an argument to BoardElement. Yeah, that's not logical. That BoardElement is just a very basic class that gives some fields, some stuff to the BoardElements. I don't want. It's like, how do you say it? It's very basic for me to do the to pass user interface all the way in there. I don't know how to explain it yet, but that's just weird. So, but yeah, it's perfectly capable to give best practice and etc. But you really have to guide it towards it. Otherwise, it will just very what is it? It will be very what's the word in English? Like a good little servant, it will just build up in your shit code and create all kinds of spaghetti. And that's not what I want. So I'm forced to learn more with its help and to create really clean logic and do the things in a very logical way, because generally that's the way I like things to be. And my structure of classes and how I reference and where, and I like it to be the way it's supposed to be. And in my old code that I'm working on, it's all over the place. So slowly I want to make that better. And now I'm really breaking my head on some of these things. And this back and forth helps me to learn how to better do that. So, but conclusion is I really need to guide it to don't hesitate to change all kinds of things. I might need to do some better prompting for that to tell me that what I'm doing isn't common or best practice or whatever, and that I could better do it otherwise. And because I have to learn more to be able to see that, and it doesn't automatically guide me to do that better. Apart from some hints that like I said, sometimes it does. But so okay. To encapsulate the control logic within a central class, yes. To do this, you would need to maintain a reference to the BoardElement. Yeah, okay, that's what I said. I have all kinds of references. There is my user interface. I have for this whole select tile stuff, etc. I already access Corridor and CorridorTiles. Those are all part of the instances that are also contain BoardElements. Those are subclasses of that whole structure. The bulk of my code for now, what I was working on, is in that structure of all the BoardElements, all the graphical elements, in fact. I'm just now recently starting to write stuff in the user interface and the game loop and the main class, etc. Oh yeah, and even the board class itself is outside of those BoardElement classes. That one is using all those BoardElements to construct the board, in fact. So this is the logic I'm looking for. So yeah, to do this, you need a reference to the BoardElement. Then in your event handlers within the user interface, you could call is highlighted on the relevant BoardElement instance. Let me see, how does it do that? This BoardElements, new array list. Oh yeah, it's using an example BoardElement. Okay, but that's my board with the board array, etc. Blah de blah. A method to add BoardElements to this list. Yeah, whatever. In your event handler, update cursor location. This is mouse moved event. Okay, that's the standard apparently. Check each BoardElement to see if it should be highlighted. Okay, this is it. For if is highlighted, if it should be highlighted, perform the highlighting action. Yeah, no, this is the other way around. I want it contains the point. I want to tell it highlighted. Please adjust according to your yeah. Okay, how do I explain it to him? So I want the event handler, the mouse moved or the mouse clicked, to set the is highlighted Boolean in BoardElement to true if a shape contains a point. Is that probably I'm doing things way too complex? Well, just ask, see what it does. Okay, wait a minute. BoardElement class, you have to set is highlighted method, yeah. Boolean is highlighted. And set highlighted. Okay, that's a new method that, yeah, oh, that's some kind of something I was missing. This is highlighted. Here you can access cursor point. Okay, this is kind of the same way. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, in the end, this is what I was asking, but it seems more complex than what I was already doing. But yeah, of course, my highlight method was very, very basic. It was just highlighting everything on the board when I was mousing over, and that was fun for this beginning and for testing. But going forward, of course I want all kinds of logic to whether to highlight a thing and how to highlight it and whatever, depending on all kinds of logic that probably comes effectively from the user interface. So I'm gonna try it this way, and then I'll see what kind of problems I'll get myself into. Then this is called, what was, yes, set highlighted is a good name for the method. And then that takes the Boolean, not sure how to pronounce it. This is highlighted, is highlighted. And then I'll copy this method because I'm lazy. Taking that away, set highlighted. Oh, that's not a Boolean, that's a method, of course. Get cursor point is undefined. Is it though? Get cursor point, no, that's not undefined. User interface UI, get cursor point. I'm willing to believe that there's a problem, but that does exist. Well, let's just ask it for now. It says this method is undefined for the type user interface, but I have this method there. If you have done the get cursor point within the user, I forgot to define that was what method is what, by the way, but it guesses. And it's accessible, not private, but you're still receiving an error that the method is undefined. It may do a few reasons. Let's check the following. Make sure it's public. Sure you're using an instance of user interface to call get cursor point. The method is an instance method and not a static one. By the way, that's funny. Yeah, this way of using it as an argument here, an instance of that's a funny way. That's something I start to see now. You can create a method with an argument of that of a certain class, and then use that. It's something I start to see now, but not sure how it all works or how it all connects. No, not different packages. If it's been constantly modified, no, I saved it. If you're still having issues, yeah, everything it's saying is, would it be the problem that I need still to create an instance here? Get cursor point. Is not this a typo? Get cursor point. Or is it the problem that, let me see, that I create a new point here and I just return cursor point. Add cast to UI. What is that doing? So if you're still having issues, could you provide more information or code? I'll just give it this is the board class. Now that is highlighted checking is elsewhere. Import. No, I don't need to import it. It's all in the same package. That's bull BS. Ensure you're passing an instance of user interface to the is highlighted. Should I just declare I don't. Okay, let me see if I just being stupid. How? So how do I pass the current, not the current instance of user interface to the highlighted method? That's something I'm still going wrong. Do I just need to declare a field? No. Okay, wait. To pass the current instance of the user interface class to the is highlighted method of a BoardElement object, you first need a reference to the user interface object. The following is an example that assumes user interface class creates instances of BoardElement, and is highlighted method is being called within the user interface class. However, if BoardElement objects are created somewhere else, yes they are, they're not created in the user interface. Oh, that's, and this, you want to check if they are highlighted from within the user interface class. You would need a way to get the current user interface instance there. A common approach to this problem is to have a user interface instance passed to the BoardElement, its constructor, and stored as a member variable in the BoardElement member variable in the BoardElement class. Yeah, I don't want to have a. Again, it's doing it. It's giving it as an argument to BoardElement. Yeah, blah blah blah. Now you can create BoardElement object by passing user interface instance to their constructor. Wow. Okay. Yes. Board. Okay. Now it's really a question, I think, of the order of things and the design philosophy. Yeah. Now it really starts. How do you say it? I'm really running into again to conceptual things like I just want to have the BoardElements, the tiles, etc., to have a boolean that says whether they're highlighted or not, and I want that boolean to take a mouse event as input. If I say that correct, to set it to true false. That mouse event comes from the user interface, where it's updated and everything. And I was just using a very simple thingy that statically called the point, and thus the point was statically. I made it static point there. It isn't very. That's kind of a shortcut, I think. But I don't want my abstract BoardElement class to have. I don't want to pass user interface to that class. I want to just define. I just want to set it from way up there. I just want to. But when I'm doing this, I'd rather access an instance of point. Wait a minute. I don't want this user interface here. I want point here. And then this would be private. And oh, it's not used. Okay. And then can I use a method here to and this is still also messing with my brain that I don't want to create a new instance of user interface. I think that's weird. That's what I'm in my head. You have one instance of user interface, and while you don't close the game, that will stay the same. Maybe I'm totally mistaken with that, but that seems logical. I don't want multiple instances of that class. I might be totally wrong about that. I know I'm pretty 100% sure that I'm really making things very complicated for myself. Maybe the way I started the whole this whole thing, I might have inversed the order of all kinds of things because I started out with the graphical elements and then now trying to put the ChatGPT said the control of things. I'm trying to put on top of that. Let me first share the whole user interface again. Here's the user interface class. Oh, so suddenly it seems to have found a way simpler way. Okay, so based on both my user interface and BoardElement classes, we can pass the current instance of user interface to the isHighlighted method. I don't have the is highlighted yet. That's from the effectively from the other one. Okay, mouse move event, tile highlighted, find tile at point da-di-da. That's the old stuff. If highlighted tile. Okay, wait. Highlighted tile, that's the same. Then system. Ah no, there's an extra line here. So highlighted CorridorTile set highlighted. Yeah, then it gets the set highlighted method from BoardElements. Highlighted CorridorTile point is highlighted. That's the Boolean. User interface this. And then of course the same for the culture tile. So there's just that one line. So that's probably go away. Don't use that. Did I leave it the same? Okay, let's get its extra line. Copy. So this is the extra line. But did it change anything? Copy. Okay. And would this change anything to the code in element? For set highlighted and is highlighted methods in BoardElement should not require any change. Here's the context of these two methods. The set highlighted method is a simple setter that modifies the is highlighted field, yeah. And the is highlighted method checks if the cursor point from the user interface is contained in the shape of the BoardElement. But it still says that it's undefined. This method still gives that the get cursor point is undefined for the type user interface. Oh, the get cursor point method I should have written. Hola, he's having a hard time. Posted for user. The get cursor point method is present within the inner draw group. Oh fuck. Okay, it's within the drawCanvas. What a noob. Yeah, this was better because the first time you. Oh my god, I'm such a moron. Yeah, this is all inside the. What is it? drawCanvas. Oh my god, what an idiot. The inner drawCanvas class. Oh, yeah, that's the drawCanvas class. Oh, what a fucking idiot. Okay, this is all inside drawCanvas. What a noob. Yeah, of course it's not available. Oh, and I'm doing this all the time. All these mouse thingies. Okay, this is all the draw canvas. Okay, and the mouse input listener is on the draw canvas. Oh, that might also be why my mouse over is. Okay, what a total noob. There's some red error in here. If is highlighted. It's with a small cap now, that's okay. Let's consider them two words to not mix everything up. And then this is also capital. Oh yeah, changed it here. If is highlighted. Okay, of course now it wants the UE. Can I just user interface UE in there or equals true? Maybe better like that instead of using the method. Yes, that's what I do. And now the whole board is highlighted. That's funny. Now I took out the whole clicked thing, and then I set it to true. It has to be double is equals true. Ah, that's it. But now it's still I'm back to the same problem, that it only works for like, what is it, the edge of the... Yeah, there's definitely a big problem between, I think, between what I do in the user interface now with all those mouse events and I think the way I draw things. I don't know exactly what, but I think there is a problem, and also with the transformation from array coordinates to screen coordinates. I think, simply said, I think I'm doing it all wrong. So I'm asking ChatGPT, can more general see any problems between my BoardElement and my user interface and how I use drawboard? And I explained that I only have a mouse event on the lower right corner of my the last element. So mouse events, you have passed to the topmost component under the mouse first. If the event is not consumed by this component, it's passed down to the next component underneath, and so on. If your mouse events are only being registered by the last drawn component, which likely sits on top of all others in Z order, yes, Z. That's a funny way of saying it. It is possible that this component is consuming the event. You may need to properly distribute your mouse events to all components underneath the mouse, or consider revising the hierarchy of your components. Okay. Draw order. You mentioned that only the last element in your board area is registered in the mouse event. It's common in graphic programming for the last drawn element to be the topmost element visually, as each draw call essentially paints over what was there before. If your BoardElement objects are being drawn based on their order in the array, and mouse events are linked to these graphical elements, it would make sense that the last element drawn, okay, yeah, that's consistent, is the only one that registers a mouse event. You might need to reconsider your draw order or how you are linking graphical elements to your BoardElement object, yes. The BoardElement is highlighted method. Currently, the highlighted method checks if the user interface cursor point is contained within the shape of the BoardElement. Yes. This approach requires that each BoardElement has access to the user interface instance, which could lead to problematic dependencies in your architecture. Instead, consider passing the cursor point as a parameter. Okay, now it's telling me that I better not the user interface, cursor point as a parameter. Yes, like it was before. Point, and then public point, if point, and that was the way it was before. Point, okay, point, cursor point, instead of user interface, blah blah. That's weird. Cursor point, just send. That's not with a capital C, my friend. Okay, that's what I would need anyway. That's not good. Decoupling your classes. Yes, that's what I want. And then all the time it's bothering me with complex thingies. Ensure that you properly initialize and update this highlighted property. Remember that good design usually involves having loosely coupled, highly cohesive classes. Each class should be responsible for its own data and behavior and should minimize dependencies on other classes. So yeah, why don't you stop giving me passing our whole classes as parameters of other classes? My God. Or maybe that's just a way to do that. I'm not sure. Consider separating the logic of your game, the model, from the display of the game, the view. Look into design patterns such as model view controller. Okay, good. Model view controller to help structure your application. Right. Okay. Oh, now it does error on all tiles. That's a good sign. Okay, missing one thingy. Yeah, it's just like it said, it responds to the last. Okay, so for the understanding issue, it might need to have board and main classes, or the methods related to creation and rendering of your BoardElement instances. However, based on the user interface and BoardElement class you provide, I can see that your user interface drawCanvas class handles both rendering, paint component, and mouse event. And that probably is a problem. drawCanvas extends JPanel implements mouse input listener. And then it says, if you're only receiving mouse events on the last element in your array, it might be due to how you're processing your mouse events. If this function only does a single tile, most likely the topmost one, so the last one drawn, what's happening. For rendering, the draw order is determined by the order in which you call the board.draw in the paint component. And then I do all kinds of thingies in the draw BoardElement method. Then I have drawBoard. Yeah, that's just calling that, which is calling the method drawBoard, CorridorTile drawBoardElement. Rendering the draw order is determined by the order in which you call the board draw inside your penguin. Yes. If board draws elements from your array in order, the last element in your array would be drawn last and would appear on top. To resolve that issue, considering the following suggestions: mouse events, you may have update your find type to account for all tiles at the given point, not just the topmost one. But they're not on a given point. They're not, because, yeah, they're right. And it's giving, which is interesting, mountain, forest. Forest is culture. All right, wait, there's one highlighted left up here and the mount. Those are highlighted, the upper left. So that would be the first in the array, the first and the second, because the forest is the second hexagon. Then it fits, and it's this mountain and this forest. But for some reason, okay, yeah, there's something really messed up with my. For some reason, it thinks I'm selecting those here. On top of that, now they are highlighted all the time. So that means it seems to draw all this, but then the first are on top, the first in the array. That's pretty weird. Anyway, alternatively, you could manage mouse events. Oh, by the way, I'll write that down. MVC, design pattern. I love that kind of stuff. And this is for model view controller. The find tile point function account for all the tiles at a given point, but they're not really at one point, not the topmost one. Or you could manage mouse events at the level of individual BoardElement instances. Yes. Let's give it the board class and the main class. Post the board class, because main doesn't do much. So I posted my main, and then I asked, now that it has all the classes, what that it can tell me more about what I'm doing wrong, or even what is common or best practice. And that the tiles don't overlap, so that the shape thingies and the order shouldn't really matter, and that I have unexpected results with via draw or access thingies, the objects. So, firstly, let me commend your effort on structuring the code into various classes, each focusing on a specific functionality. This is good practice and encourages code modularity, reusability, and readability. Regarding the problems you're facing with the board rendering and tile overlapping, there are some things that could potentially be causing the issue. Improper scaling or alignment. I think there is a problem. Improper scaling alignment. Make sure that when you draw the tiles, you are considering the correct size of each tile and the correct position relative to each other. Yeah, and drawing that, I'm doing that, but I'm wondering if I said it before, if my transformation from grid array coordinates to screen coordinates to X and Y, if that is something problematic. Rendering order, isometric rendering. Okay, yeah, here's a problem, I think. Object referencing in board. You have a board class that contains a 2D array of board elements. Yeah, that's the grid hexagon thingy. In your main class, you also have a reference to a board object. When you manipulate the board elements through methods in your main class, ensure you are referencing the correct board instance. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask with those weird In main, I create a new board. So from then on, I must always access that instance of board. And then I set the game loop, which I'm totally not sure about. I probably, what is it, the main? Probably want to do the user interface before the game loop, even before the board. This is weird. I start with the user interface because you have a user interface already when ensure you're referencing the correct board instance here. Regarding best practices and potential improvements, here are some suggestions. Single responsibility principle. Each class should have a single responsibility. For instance, the main class has many responsibilities. Initializing the game, running the game loop, handling the user interface, etc. It would be better to split those responsibilities into different classes. Oh, I thought the main class was for that. Class and method visibility. Make your classes and methods only as visible as they need to be. For example, your user interface class does not need to be public if it's only used within the package. This principle helps encapsulate your code, make it safer, and indicate usage intent to other developers. Yeah, okay, that's something I wanted to look in later. Error handling. Right now you're simply printing the stack trace when an exception is caused. Depending on the nature of the exception, you might want to do more, like logging the error to a file, notifying the user, or even stopping the game. It's a critical error. UE responses. You should never block the UE thread with time-consuming tasks. If you want to wait for a certain event, like waiting for a turn, like we have here, consider using a different mechanism, like event listeners. This would prevent your application from appearing unresponsive. So the most promising seems that might use the wrong instance of board effect. Because of course I don't have a get board method. Okay. So ChatGPT said something about my drawCanvas method in the user interface handles both rendering and mouse events, and I reposted it and asked how this asked it to explain how this can cause problems and how it could do this better following best practice. Well, it seems to have trouble. Oh, luckily it continues on itself. So it says that mixing different responsibilities in the same class, such as rendering and event handling, can lead to code that is harder to maintain, extend, and understand. This violates the single responsibility principle. This violates the single responsibility principle, which is one of the 5 principles of solid design in object-oriented programming. The principle states that a class should have one and only one reason to change. This improves the modularity of your code and makes it more robust and easier to maintain. So still my drawCanvas that has both. Yeah, this is not something I've thought of myself, but you could have a drawCanvas class that only takes care of drawing the board and a separate mouse input handler class that handles the mouse events. In this way, any change in the rendering logic will not affect the event handling logic, and vice versa. The listener implementing all the methods in both the mouse listener and mouse motion listener. And ChatGPT is talking about the mouse input handler. Use composition to connect the components, user interface to connect the components. User interface class will use composition to link the two classes together. It creates instances of drawCanvas and mouse input handler and makes sure they communicate properly. Okay, so there's a mouse listener here and a mouse motion listener. Okay, this seems pretty obvious. I want to know the difference between mouse input listener and mouse event and mouse input handler. What's the difference between input handler? There isn't any mouse input handler interface. Oh, it's just a suggested name for your own class. Okay, this was just an example. Okay, I'm gonna use that one. Public class mouse input extends mouse adapter Okay, so these are really different classes. Okay, wait, so my Hello user interface class is actually a subclass of the Java frame. So I'm asking if it is actually a good idea to have my whole user interface extend the JFrame. Okay, this is a common practice, especially for smaller applications where the IU isn't particularly complex. It's used to create a window. Yeah, because I will need more windows and I can create, yeah. Okay, I can initialize a JFrame within my user interface class, and then I could probably create multiple of those. Yeah. Remember, inheritance represents is a relationship, so this is my user interface is a JFrame, while composition represents a has a relation. Yeah. Okay, but I'm just like a madman. I'm just changing all kinds of stuff, and I'd probably break everything. All this stuff. drawCanvas extends JPanel. Implements mount listener. No, that goes away. Okay, maybe I don't even need this because click point, cursor point. Oh, I don't have point. Where did it get those from before then? Point. Ah, here it is hidden, and that's in the class. Mouse input handler. That's here. Okay, that seems to be all. So yeah, in my user interface I have all kinds of classes. Mouse input listener. Okay, the user interface in the constructor. I need to get rid of all this passing this as well. Necessary. So I pasted my game loop as well. I wanted to answer okay, game loop, that's okay, but in main and user interface as user interface constructor. Here I'm passing all these instances as arguments, which, oh wait, the user interface takes itself and the game loop and the board as arguments. Maybe that's, or if this is actually the best way of doing this. So I was a bit confused, but the user interface takes an instance of main and game loop and board as arguments, which then tells it that those are these. Board also was in there, and main doesn't take argument. Yeah, user interface take arguments. Board doesn't take. There's the constructor here, doesn't take arguments, and game loop neither. Also, user interface takes all those instances. Yeah, that might be the way actually. In main, I instantiate them, but yeah, new user face cannot in this order probably cannot be instantiated with the correct instance when I put it up there, of course. Yeah, but then like I was asking it before, I should just now should probably change the user interface that it creates the window so that I can create other windows. It's logical that you are already in the user interface. I'm just thinking the other things that you're already in the user interface when you start this game, even if you didn't press a button to start a new game. So it's kind of weird that should probably start game loop first now, but in my reasoning, the main is where the game is run. So you should start something else before you start a game, but that's maybe, I have no idea how those are separated. When you before you start a game, that you're not really in game yet. That's a later worry, maybe, because for now I don't need that. But then, let's say you already started a new game, then you would probably first have a game loop. No, for my game loop now I need a board. No, yeah, the board you choose from before you start the game. Let's say you choose a random board or you choose a preset board, it's already there. So there's a board, gets loaded in with all kinds of weight, and there's a game loop. Okay, but anyway, let me ask ChatGPT. The way you have set up your classes seems to be tightly coupled, which can limit flexibility and make the code harder to understand within. However, this is often a trade-off in designing software, and in some cases, like simple programs, it might be acceptable to have some coupling for simplicity's sake. However, for more complex programs, it's often a good idea to minimize coupling where possible, so that each class can be modified, tested, and understood independently. Here are some strategies you might consider. Use event-driven programming. For example, you could use the observer pattern to let the user interface observe changes in the game loop, or vice versa, without having to directly interact with each other. Encapsulate logic inside a class where it belongs. For example, the game loop class should not need to know about the user interface class. The user interface should just react to the state of the game loop. Yeah, that's not the case. If some data or operations are needed by multiple classes, consider creating a separate class to encapsulate that data or operations. This can help reduce coupling by providing a single point of interaction between the classes. Use dependency injection. Instead of creating new instances inside constructors or methods, pass them as parameters. Yeah. Okay, that's dependency injection. Passing the other classes as arguments. Pass them as parameters. The use of getters and setters can also help, but it's more about encapsulation than reducing coupling. Getters and setters can confer access to an object properties and can help you change the underlying implementation without affecting other parts of the code. An example of how you might modify your main and user interface classes to reduce coupling. Oh, now it passes board as in, what was the word? As a parameter to game loop instead of to user interface. And it doesn't have this weird reference to itself. Oh yeah, that's because user interface. And then in user interface where I have all those dependencies, injections, interface game loop, yeah, I have that. So it doesn't have main and board. This code user interface no longer needs to know about board, and main is the only class that has to know about all three accordingly. So can you read back in our conversation? Can you read back these four classes in our conversation? User interface. So can you read back these four classes, main, game, loop, board, and user interface in our conversation, and adapt your answer accordingly, please? Let's see if it can do that. It's been a long conversation already. Here I'm totally not sure if it can, what is it called, if it doesn't exceed the token limit, or what is it called? Or the ULA. No, that's not a token limit, the context window. Forgot it. But I noticed it doesn't, a lot of the time it doesn't automatically take the whole context into consideration, if it's even capable. Apologies for any confusion. After reviewing the classes, I have better understanding of the structure. Here are some modified suggestions to reduce coupling. I don't need forcibly to reduce coupling if that's not a useful thing. Main. As the enter point of your program, it is acceptable that it knows about the other classes. However, it seems unnecessary for main to hold reference to user interface, board, and game loop, especially if they are not used elsewhere in the class. You could simplify the constructor to only start the game loop. Game loop is the core of the game mechanic, so it should contain all the logic related to the game. It's reasonable for it to know about board, but it shouldn't need to know anything about the user interface. Yeah, I was reading quickly about the, what was it called? The MVC design pattern, model view controller. I found a little book online of a guy that talks about design patterns specifically for games, and yeah, this corresponds to those design patterns that you have the game, yeah, the model, the view, and the controller separated. User interface is about presenting the game state to the user and receiving inputs. It's reasonable for it to know about a game loop, but it shouldn't directly manipulate board or game loop's state. Instead, it should call methods on game loop to handle the changes. Yeah. Right. In this setup, the dependency flow is one directional. This is what I was looking for. It needs some coaching, but yeah. And like I said before, it's you need to learn, you need already know or learn a lot yourself to get it to the right answers. For me, it's like mostly for now, it's like intuition or gut feeling that that doesn't seem logical, and yeah, slowly, like I said many times before, things are starting to dawn on me how it's actually supposed to relate. And then again, like I was reading, it's all kinds of different ways of you can do it. And like it said in the last answer, it's not necessarily bad to have all these dependencies because it's a small, simple program or game. But still, I like it to be logical. Like because it's a learning project as well. I like it to be as perfect, quotes, as possible. But no, yeah, that's not the right thing to say. I'd like to strike the correct balance. I just want to understand how it all works and then decide. Well, don't want to make it too structured if it's not necessary or contraproductive. No, that's French translated. Contraproductif. I don't need to make all kinds of really well-structured things when that's not efficient. Actually hurts the performance or anything. So in this setup, the dependency flow is one directional. Main depends on user interface and game loop. User interface depends on game loop, just game loop. Game loop depends on board. There are no circular dependencies. Yeah, I was feeling it was circular, which helps to reduce complexity and coupling. As for whether it's good practice for user interface to extend JFrame, that's generally fine. JFrame is a top-level container in Swing, and extending it is a common practice when creating a custom frame. However, you should be aware of the pitfalls of inheritance and consider whether composition might be a better choice in your specific case. Yeah, you need, of course, when you start whatever game, you need to start a window. That's what it does. And seeing, like, this is not a 3D game or something where often you start in a menu and then when you go into game, you're not longer in a frame, you're in full screen, which probably is some kind of frame as well. I don't know how the different works, but my game can just stay in a window that you, what to say, just can close like a browser game. It can just close, but then yeah, your game state is lost and everything. Like real games, when you quit them, except when you, what is it called? When you enter process in a task manager, it asks if you want to save the game, etc. It automatically saves. Compared to mobile apps a lot, or well, a lot of the time they keep the game state as well. Depends. But that's a question for later. But it might be interesting thinking about these window thingies. The way I see it now, it can just be a windowed game. If you close it, and that's it. First is the order of game loop and board, and then here it passes board to game loop as a parameter, but in main it initializes it without. So that's, I think, an error. So I think I keep this order. Okay, it does it like this. Board, instead of using this one, that's okay. And then I think game loop, new game loop, board. Yeah, I know it's undefined. And then game loop start. Oh, what is game loop start actually? Oh, there's this method here. And game loop point start. Okay, that's interesting. Game loop, but then start game loop would be a method in game loop and not in main. And then main, I need is running boolean. Interesting. At least now I understand that this is using an instance of that stuff. Okay, game loop point. Yeah, start game loop. Why? It's not visible. Okay, that's because it's private. That can be public. Takes board as a parameter. And then in main, I throw those out because they're right there in the. Okay, I can throw out this was an old suggestion from ChatGPT. Let's throw that out. Initialize board, away, clean it up a bit. And user interface needs to be an instance of user interface. Okay, here I'm confident that I can initiate those instances because now we're talking about a hierarchy. Public class game loop, private issue. Why do I have them in the? Okay, that's because I'm initiating them. Boolean. Oh, there it is. Grid hexagon. Selected tile. Oh, grid hexagon selected tile. Okay, so I changed. Let's see, user interface. Getting distracted again. This is still using the grid hexagon. I'm taking that out right here. I'm really making a big mess. Public tile, and tile selected tile, whatever. I'm really creating one huge mess, breaking everything. Earliest placeable units, etc. Boolean is running. Game loop. Why do I have the W and H variables here? For some reason, that was because I was doing it wrong, probably. So, okay, game loop, board, and it sets it to private, and then this board is board. That stays the same. Hunter, unit hunter. Okay, now it's just doing it over there. That doesn't make any difference, I think. If not game loop, if not placeable units is empty, can just take out the game loop, which cleans up the code. Yeah, when I have to make too many references to other classes elsewhere, create method wait for next turn. So it was telling me also to not do this in main. So, and it's logical wait for next turn is obviously a game loop thing. So that cleans up nicely, and it's still whining. Oh yeah, of course, because now I'm going to the user interface. Gets no access to main. Up, so this goes away. It doesn't need board like that. How does that? Oh, how does that work? Game loop is game loop. Private game loop, and then add window listener, window closing, and this is game loop. Maybe with a capital. Go. Works better, right? Now I don't get all these weird ass thingies all the time. Board. And why don't I have like a new drawCanvas? Do I have a board? Yeah, I have a board instance there. And game loop depends on user interface depends on game loop, and game loop depends on board. Game loop depends on board, but I have board still in user interface. Okay, I had all kinds of different mouse paints and stuff here. I'm gonna take this out as well. It's so old I don't know, and I can easily find it again with the help of ChatGPT now. And the readability is 0 with all that stuff. Red mouse listener was from that. Okay, put the mouse before the drawCanvas. Board draw is new drawCanvas. Game loop has an instance of board. Oh yeah, I have still got my stupid grid hexagon here. Change that to tile and see where it breaks later. So because I logically, like I understand now, because game loop already has specific instance of board, I don't want to this is the visualization, the interface, even with all that stuff. Okay, there I create another JFrame effect. Game loop, set selected tile, set selected tile in game loop. Okay, I fucked that up. Great. Of course I did. So I have a draw canvas here, where I have the board, the draw board, and I have the JFrame. Okay, I asked if they are conflicting. The draw canvas and the JFrame. There's a brief explanation. Build UI. This method is responsible for constructing and arranging all the components that will be in your UI. This includes creating the JFrame settings properly like sign on and adding components. This component would include things like buttons, text fields, menus, and so on. drawCanvas, this class is an inner class extending JPanel. Okay, that was it. Which serves as a custom drawing service. Alright, that's where I draw. It overrides the paint component method to perform custom painting of the game board. Where was I? In your build UI method, you create a JFrame and then add an instance of drawCanvas to it. Okay. Alright. JFrame serves as the window that contains your application, and the drawCanvas is a component within that window where the board is drawn. That said, it is indeed somewhat confusing to have user interface extend JFrame and also create a new JFrame inside the build URL. This would be more idiomatic to either have user interface extend JFrame and configure this as the main frame, but instead hold a private JFrame. Yeah, like it said before. Okay, so when I extend it, I could just stop creating a new JFrame, and whether I do that or not, then I create a JFrame inside this user interface depends mainly on whether you expect to need multiple JFrame objects in a single user interface, and whether you want to expose all of JFrame's methods in user interface. So the question if I want to have multiple windows within the game, which I cannot really tell because I don't think so. And in that case, I can just take that out, So let's do this, set title, set size, I already set the size, preferred size, set size, set preferred size, so probably the same as set size, more flexible frame, canvas, it moves it to up here, and then add mouse listener, new Windows adapter, add window listener, new mouse input handler, new window adapter, new drawCanvas, new mouse input handler is my mouse input handler, canvas, where's canvas? Oh, JPanel, canvas, build UI, drawCanvas, canvas, this new drawCanvas, canvas add label, label is JLabel, it's probably in here as well, that's my label I have up there. Why does it have a, oh, it's that, So when I run my code now, I get this. I don't know if you can see it, only a closing button and a maximize button. And it's just empty. So I posted my user interface again and asked what was wrong. So it gave me a whole thing about lots of things. I'm really trying to, I really messed up my drawing stuff now. And yeah, trying to find out how it all works. Learning. Like I said before, I was sure I was breaking everything, but this is good for understanding what I'm doing here, because I'm sure the weird things that I get with the Tileselect has something to do with how I draw the board and etc. I think, and if not, it's very good to learn. Most of these things I got the code from somewhere, so I have hardly any idea what's going on. And since I played around with the mouse events, I I I now know better what it does again. And the same goes with all these windows that I'm messing up with the help of ChatGPT, it must be said. I'm just implementing some stuff that it gives me, and then it breaks, of course. So I'm just shooting from the hip right now. I get my code to run, but doesn't do any highlighting or any weird artifacts. Doesn't even give errors when I get outside of the screen like before. So yeah, I'm just shooting for the hip, but it's pretty amazing. I'm just trying to absorb all this about those paints and stuff and canvas. So I just asked ChatGPT that I just tell them that the tile highlighting doesn't do anything anymore with all the changes implemented over this conversation. And like I started somewhere before the highlighting was working. The highlight was working on all the tiles, but the mouse over event for select tile wasn't doing anything. And now neither is working anymore. Any ideas on why? Just throwing it out there. And so it tells me something about that the mouse listener should be correctly registered to the component, and that I'm adding the mouse listener to the user interface. I close this, and not to the canvas, etc. And then it has some other ideas about why it isn't working with the tiles, etc. Of course, but then I posted this build UI piece where I have a draw instance of drawCanvas, and then add canvas. I actually, with its reply, I understand that I don't know anything about it, because it says in your code you're actually adding the mouse input handler to the user interface instance, which extends JFrame, not the canvas instance, which is drawCanvas, which is a JPanel. If you want to add it to the canvas, you should call canvas point that mouse listener, etc. Furthermore, you're adding the canvas to the scroll pane after you already added the canvas to the user interface. This will remove the canvas from the user interface because a component can only have one parent. And that was something, I think, years ago when I was making this little piece of code, I learned something about that because it rings a bell. Because a component can only have one parent, so it's like a cascading, inheritance with sub and etc. And you're effectively reparenting the canvas to the scroll pane. Instead, you should add the scroll pane to the user interface. But yeah, this is with this little add thingies. I have no idea what I'm doing actually. So new scroll pane canvas, add scroll pane, and then where's the draw canvas? Add canvas, set preferred size, put that down there. I'm not sure why I'm doing what it says that I'm doing. Okay, I just added a mouse listener. But yeah, when it's telling me something that like this, that what the effects are of what I'm doing, I am pretty confident that it's right. So I'm doing it all wrong. This is about 2 days later as the footage before. And in the meantime, I had some conversation, some more interaction with ChatGPT about all these things, and I've read something. I've read a bit in what ChatGPT actually advised to read something about here on the right, model view controller, and I typed that on Google and started reading in a book. One of the first results that popped up, the guy that writes a book about has written a book about design patterns specifically for game development, and I'm in the first chapter where he goes into all those different design patterns, a bit like what ChatGPT tells me here, because as well, I was asking some more questions when I wasn't recording. So yeah, I was with this mouse listener, etc. I was going back and forth, and then I asked about my shape class if that was. I went into some more general stuff and design principles. And so I asked about my shape class, if that the way I did that with all the shapes, if that would be respecting good design principles. And then again, it tells me that it depends on the use case, etc. And gives me some of those basic principles: single responsibility principle, separation of concern, reuse and abstraction, etc. Well, not etc. That's 3 principles it gives, with taking in account my code. So it tells me that it might be the way I do it might actually be not be that bad, that I define all this shape. And does it tell it here? Keep scrolling. At some point, it also tells me that's kind of I kind of use the factory principle a bit with that. Then I ask about the BoardElement class, where I have a draw BoardElement method, and if that wouldn't be better in a class where the rendering is done, because that's just I only saw the MVC, the model view control principle, and the separation of concerns, etc. in there. So I was wondering, yeah, maybe I should separate those things. And there it confirms that might be a good idea to reorganize the code a bit so that I have some kind of a rendering class effectively. And then in the end, it says, however, always consider the specific needs and requirements of your project when making a design decision and making design decisions. And then the most important thing is that your code is easy to understand, maintain, and extend. If the current structure achieves these goals, it may not be necessary to change it. And so, yeah, it keeps repeating that. So I said, thank you. I'm a beginner and learning, and I like to learn about design patterns and best practice, although I already know that most depends on the specific situation. So then it confirms that design patterns and best practices are highly variable tools, blah, blah, blah. So it says, while understanding that the best solution often depends on the specific situation is a crucial part of your learning journey, it's also very useful to learn about commonly used design patterns, principles, and best practices. Here are a few fundamental ones you might find useful. So it names 8 design patterns, and so yeah, I read a bit of that, and it also advised me to read up on some design patterns, notably MVC. So the last couple of days I've been reading a bit on a book that goes into design patterns specifically for game design. And with everything that I understand so far, it's just very basic. In the book, I'm just in the first chapter where the writer describes some of the use cases for the different design patterns with the pros and cons, etc., with some examples. And yeah, with this basic knowledge that I learned in the last couple of days, I now totally understand why at this point in my code, in this footage and the last video I did here before about or not the last, it was about learn to code or to prompt. And in the one about the select tile method, which I try to do in this footage as well, to return a specific tile. I now totally understand why I'm having so much trouble here, because now what I run into is my total lack of any design in my code. I had this highlight function, highlight method, that was just defined on the really on the base of on the basis of the shape object of the, well, those are not shapes, but the shape of the objects. And I just had this code very high up in my hierarchy of objects, in fact, board objects, that just checked for whether the mouse pointer, here it is, whether the mouse pointer is inside one of those shapes. And this is in my second abstract class in the tile class and the other BoardElements hierarchy. So it's just checking there in a class that is used to make objects. It's checking if the mouse pointer is in that shape, which is Java functionality, and then highlighting it. And yeah, that's so there's no separation between. I use all those objects to create the board, but I already have, like, how do you say it, hard coded in very basically inside the objects that it's highlighted as soon as the mouse is over. So there's no separation of the objects that are used to create the board and the view there. And with the selection of a tile, I need the objects that create the board. I need to translate them to the screen, where I made another video where I was confused about the difference between the array coordinates and the screen coordinates, for example. And then I need a way to click on it, or to, with the mouse over, to retrieve information by click or mouse over. Same principle. But because now what I'm running into now is the lack of any such design patterns in my code. Multiple times I noticed that you can get you can get things done in a endless multitude of different ways. And I found a way to highlight a tile simply, and that's it. Or any shape on the board. It's when I was playing around with the board, any shape that I display, that I render, uses this highlight function to be highlighted. So that was pretty. I thought it was pretty neat, but now now I understand that I need something quite different to select a specific tile, or even return the fields of a specific tile, than just this function that is based on the shape and all the objects that are created with this abstract class that is part of the BoardElements. And also here in my user interface class, I was really messing things up, because I had this mouse listener in the drawCanvas, etc. Everything was mixed up, and I'm doing all these. I was having the mouse handler things inside the drawCanvas, and it worked. It worked until now, until I tried to do two things with it. The select tiles, and I have this long back and forth with ChatGPT about that user interface, drawCanvas, mouse input handler, everything. And there I didn't understand, because it was a long time ago. I created that structure, didn't understand what it was doing. But there I'm mixing the user interface with the rendering stuff, which of course I can have a window. I create a window in the user interface. That's what I get now. But all the functionality with what is rendered in that window, that could be separated. And if it's all very simple, that's okay. But it gets kind of complex in my stuff. So that was. The more I was trying to fix things in this footage with the tiles, with the select tile stuff, the more I ran into all these things that are basically just wrong or very complicated because I didn't respect any of those any of those design principles. So it's quite funny. It's quite funny. It confirms also what I said in another video, that I will run to it eventually, and now I ran into the problem that I don't know anything about a good structure. So pretty funny. So I was in this footage. I was going to clean up my code a bit and apply the things I learned in the last couple of videos. And I already I changed things just slightly a little bit, and I was really quickly already running into my lack of understanding, and now I understand what I really need to do is get more understanding of those design principles. I have already have an idea of the basics, and along the way I will learn more. But I'm not going to try to memorize all those design principles right off the get-go. But I at least I understand now that I might want to try to separate some things. And like I said before in this footage, I'm sensible to that. I want to try to create code that's kind of clean and efficient and logical. So yeah, I think I need to do that. And what's funny, I recorded before this footage. I recorded the video about. I recorded a video about whether you should learn to code or learn to prompt, and I was making a point for that you can learn to code with the help of ChatGPT. But yeah, here I kind of run into its limitations. What other people have said, that when you don't know how to program yet, you can use ChatGPT to write you some code. But the way I use it already, it has the context of a few of my classes, but even that isn't always evident. Sometimes I have to specifically tell it to read back what I already posted in the conversation. And then again, it can give like a million different ways, almost, to do the same thing. But yeah, it needs to fit with the design philosophy you choose. When you don't have a design philosophy like mine, you can just hack stuff in there and make it work. But yeah, I started getting kind of suspicious when in the user interface I needed all these kinds of endless spaghetti code kind of thingies without any result. And yeah, even when ChatGPT has the whole context of your code, it can give you code that to make it work. And even I think code assistants, etc. What they can never do is, like ChatGPT keeps reminding me, is that it really depends a lot on the situation, but also on your preferences. And that's what I understand when reading about design patterns, is that it really depends also on your style, on your preferences, or of course on the kind of project, etc. But there's not something as best practice, and if it is, it evolves, it's changed all the time with different languages, different needs. And so at least for now, that's not something that an AI assistant can do for you. So I might make a separate video about that. But yeah, so I think I end this footage here for now. I already have like about 6 hours of footage, but I will cut out a whole lot, of course. But I think I will start another episode where I really try to restructure my code as far as I can now, with those principles in mind. And maybe ChatGPT can help me with some of those design patterns if I specifically tell it to adhere to a certain design principle, seeing my code, etc. But I haven't got too much confidence that it will get great results. But yeah, I think I'm gonna mess around because I've been messing around with this tile selection thingy for a while, and I've a few little ideas to restructure all this. And yeah, like for example, it confirms make the draw board stuff, make that a different, all the rendering stuff, make that somewhere else. And yeah, simple things like what was it, load image, that I set the specific, now it's one function that tries to find a file name with the same name as the class, and just set that file name inside the class, have a method like load image be a method that's what is called a method that's inherited, an abstract method that's inherited by its subclasses. Just simple things that also. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video where I try to make sense of this all and try to start to implement some design patterns, and yeah, probably gonna draw a lot of schedules, etc. I like drawing schedules. So thanks for watching me get in all kinds of problems, and see you later. Bye bye.